Chapter 2951. Ling Jiao, Fei Lian, and Hu Dou watched helplessly as Nine Demon Emperor's primordial spirit was burned to death by the golden flame. This golden flame was specifically targeted at primordial spirits. Even with their strength, they could not extinguish it. In the sky and on the ground, in eastern wilderness and Song, countless living beings saw this scene and gradually stopped fighting and killing. They were all shocked. A peerless demon emperor had fallen in the hands of Araki Takashi just like that. Eastern wilderness and Song had fought for many years, and countless demon soldiers and generals had died. Even Demon King experts could not avoid heavy losses. But once one reached the Demon Emperor realm, it was very difficult to fall. Moreover, this was a peerless demon emperor. And a peerless demon emperor from Song. Ling Jiao, Fei Lian, and Hu Dou looked terrible. They stared at Wu Dao's real body not far away with fear. Everyone had underestimated this person. This Araki Takashi could kill Nine Demon Emperor in front of everyone. This meant that this person could also kill them. On Eastern Wilderness's side, the Divine Elephant, Nine-Tailed, and the other demon emperors also looked at Wu Dao's real body in disbelief. Dai Yu had just made Wu Dao's real body the Lord of Taya Mountain Range, and Wu Dao's real body had shown his strength in the Butterfly Valley's palace. But no one expected Wu Dao's real body's combat strength to reach this level. Not only did he kill 6 ordinary demon emperors, but he also killed Song's Nine Demon Emperor on the spot. Such means. Ling Jiao, Fei Lian, and Hu Dou's eyes flickered. They were hesitant. Because of Araki Takashi's sudden appearance, the situation had completely reversed. They no longer had any advantage. On the battlefield of the peerless demon emperors, they only had 3 left. But the other side also had the Divine Elephant, Nine-Tailed, and this mysterious Araki Takashi. In terms of the number of ordinary demon emperors, Song's side still had the advantage. But the remaining ordinary demon emperors had all been killed by Araki Takashi. They were no longer willing to fight. If they continued to fight, their losses would only be greater. Moreover, their army was made up of the south, west, and north regions of the Great Wasteland domain. There was no need to continue fighting with Eastern Wilderness. It would be better to wait for Song's experts to return. Emperor Qing Flames lead them to conquer Eastern Wilderness. Ling Jiao, Fei Lian, and Hu Dou, the 3 peerless monster monarchs, had the intention to retreat. They exchanged a glance and understood each other's intentions. Araki Takashi. The spirited horn monarch beast suddenly spoke in a cold tone. You've killed the peerless monarch beast of Song, which means you've cut off your own path of retreat. How stupid are you? Dou. Emperor use. Use you. B. Use int. Mimi's Emperor me you. Mimi you is you Dou. As he spoke, the martial Dao body held the prison-suppressing cauldron and charged towards the 3 of them. You still want to fight? This guy is crazy. The 3 peerless demon emperors cursed in their hearts. Humph. Demon Emperor Hu Dou snorted and said, I will let you go for now. There will be plenty of time. When Emperor Qing Flame returns, Eastern Wilderness will be destroyed. Demon Emperor Spirit Horn also shouted, You won't be arrogant for long. Although they had decided to retreat, the 3 peerless demon emperors did not want to back down. They cursed and turned to run. Since the 3 peerless demon emperors had retreated, the rest of the ordinary demon emperors also turned to leave. Retreat! The demon kings below shouted. They quickly retreated with their demon soldiers and demon generals, leaving behind a ground full of corpses. Above Tuqiu Mountain Range. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai, Great Rock Demon Emperor, and Kuei Ox Demon Emperor watched the scene unfold in Taya Mountain Range with complicated expressions. Great Rock Demon Emperor said, I didn't expect this Araki Takashi that Xueqi found to have such combat strength. He can kill a peerless demon emperor. Although Xueqi is a peerless demon emperor, his combat strength is not at the top. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai said, This Araki Takashi might not be able to win against the 2 of us, let alone kill us. Of course. Great Rock Demon Emperor nodded. The 2 of them had the confidence to do so. Even among the peerless demon emperors, there were strong and weak ones. The 2 of them were at the top of the peerless demon emperor's combat strength. Eastern Wilderness has survived this calamity. Are we still leaving? Kuei Ox Demon Emperor asked softly. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai was silent for a while and said, Let's go over there and take a look. Then, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai tore the void and the three of them entered the space tunnel. Soon, they arrived above Taiya mountain range. At this moment, Song's army was retreating. Should we chase? Emperor Qing Tian was excited as he looked at Wu Dao and the two peerless demon emperors, Divine Elephant and Nine-Tailed. Although it was only one battle, in his heart, Wu Dao's original body was already comparable to the two peerless demon emperors. Don't chase. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai, Great Rock Demon Emperor, and Kuei Ox Demon Emperor suddenly appeared. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai shook his head and said, although we defeated Song in this battle, it was a Pyrrhic victory. We have suffered great losses. If we continue to chase, we will only lose more experts. The Divine Elephant and Nine-Tailed Beast Emperors didn't say anything. Emperor Qing Tian curled his lips. They had indeed suffered heavy losses in this battle, and their vitality had been greatly damaged. However, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai, Great Rock Demon Emperor, and Kuei Ox Demon Emperor were all at their peak. Of course, these thoughts were only in their minds. They did not say it out loud. Wu Dao's original body also did not say anything. He was indeed not in the right state to continue chasing. Although he had killed 9 Demon Emperor, it was a narrow victory. Apart from the Origin Martial Grotto Heaven, he had used almost all his trump cards. Everyone, let's return to Butterfly Valley first. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai said. We won this battle by a narrow margin. Xueqi should have prepared wine for us to celebrate. Others did not think much of it. However, Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor frowned. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai's words were inappropriate. They had risked their lives to win this battle. However, the Dragon Emperor of Desolate Sea's words just now had referred to them as we. It seemed that they had contributed to this battle as well. Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor naturally could not say anything about it. Everyone sat down in Taiya mountain range and made arrangements. Then, they tore through the void and landed in Butterfly Valley. They returned to the meeting hall. As expected, Dai Yu was still sitting in the middle of the hall. It seemed like she had never left. However, there were already a few jars of strong wine on the seats on both sides. The clay seals had been removed and the fragrance filled the air. When the demon emperors entered the hall, the first person Dai Yu looked at was Su Zimo. You're quite powerful. Dai Yu's voice rang in Su Zimo's mind. In the eyes of others, Dai Yu was still high and mighty with an indifferent expression. However, Su Zimo could almost see Dai Yu saying those words to him with a smile. Thank you, Brother Hailang, for your 250,000 book coins. Thank you, Brother Luya, for your 10,000 book coins. Continue writing. Everyone, sleep early. End of chapter. Chapter 2952. When Su Zimo heard that, he smiled gently and sent a voice transmission. I've killed 6 ordinary demon emperors and a peerless demon emperor in this battle. I've obtained quite a number of world fragments of various sizes. Coupled with the world fragments of the 2 demon emperors, Zhu Shu and Tian Wu, they can help you heal. Dai Yu was injured. Through their previous conversation, Su Zimo knew that the fragments of the worlds contained Genesis Qi that could help Dai Yu repair her world. Dai Yu looked at Su Zimo with mesmerizing eyes. How precious were the fragments of the worlds. Not only did they contain the Tao and skills of an emperor, but they also contained Genesis Qi that could help emperor experts strengthen their own worlds and raise their cultivation. The fragments of the worlds of 8 ordinary demon emperors and a peerless demon emperor were enough to tempt any emperor expert. But Su Zimo did not hesitate to give them to her. No need. Dai Yu transmitted her voice. My world has already been cultivated to the great perfection stage. Even if I refine the fragments of ordinary demon emperors or peerless demon emperors, it will be difficult to completely repair it. Keep these fragments of the worlds well. They will be of great use to you when you become a quasi-emperor or break through to the emperor stage. Although Dai Yu and Su Zimo were communicating through spirit consciousness and outsiders could not hear them, the other demon emperors could vaguely sense something amiss. Of course, most of the demon emperors did not think too much about it. After all, Araki Takashi had made great contributions in this battle. No matter what reward the Blood Butterfly Demon Emperor gave him, it was only right. However, the Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor did not think so. As a nine-tailed fox, she was more meticulous and could observe more clearly. The way Dai Yu looked at Araki Takashi was indeed a little different. The way Araki Takashi looked at Dai Yu was also different. The Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor frowned. her gaze falling on Su Zimo from time to time as if she was thinking of something. "Everyone, please take a seat." Dai Yu waved her hand. The demon emperors took their seats. They were too familiar with each other and there was no need for pleasantries. Since they had won the battle, they naturally had to drink to their heart's content. After 3 rounds of drinks, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai suddenly stood up and came to the center of the hall. Fortunately, Araki Takashi made great contributions in this battle and turned the situation around. But Song will not give up just like that. He will come back again. We cannot be careless. Exactly. The other few demonic emperors nodded in agreement. Dragon Emperor turned to Su Zimo and said, "Taoist Araki Takashi, you have gained a lot in this battle. The rest of the treasures are yours. But the world fragments of the world demon emperors, I hope you can hand them all." As soon as he finished speaking, the hall instantly quieted down. The demon emperors looked at Dragon Emperor Huang Emperor frowned. Apart from Great Rock Demon Monarch and Xueqi Demon Monarch, the rest did not expect Dragon Emperor Huang Hai to say such a thing. "You. The martial Dao body said indifferently without even lifting his eyelids. "You Demon Yu and Divine Demon Emperor said you Demon Yu." A Dragon Emperor Huang Hai said, "My suggestion is for the Eastern Wilderness and the bigger picture. If I'm not wrong, Taoist Araki Takashi has not reached the Great Emperor realm. If that's the case, these world fragments will not be of much use to you. If that's the case, why not give them to me? I have been stuck in the Great Emperor realm for many years. If I can get these world fragments, I might be able to reach the Great Emperor realm. By then, the Eastern Wilderness will have 2 peak-level demon emperors. Only then will we be able to resolve the next crisis." If these words were said to others, perhaps they would believe it. However, none of the demonic emperors present were fools to be able to cultivate to such a level. They could see that Dragon Emperor Huang Hai wanted the world fragments in Araki Takashi's hands for himself. Putting aside the fact that those world fragments were desolate martial spoils of war to begin with, no one should touch them. Even if they gave these world fragments to Dragon Emperor Huang Hai, he would be able to reach the Great Emperor realm? If it was that simple, there would not be so few peak-level imperial emperors. For the Eastern Wilderness and for the bigger picture? These were just excuses that Dragon Emperor Huang Hai used to cover up his own selfish desires. Of course, most of the demon emperors remained silent even though they knew what Dragon Emperor Huang Hai was thinking. After all, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai had followed Dai Yu for many years and was a peerless demon emperor. And Araki Takashi was a newcomer. To them, he was just an outsider. In the end, the Divine Elephant Demon Emperor could not stand it any longer. He said in a deep voice, "Desolate Ocean, no matter what, Desolate Marshal fought for those world fragments. They belong to him. Now you're asking him to hand them over. What's the difference between that and robbery?" Divine Elephant Demon Emperor had followed Dai Yu for many years. He was the only one who dared to talk to Dragon Emperor Huang Hai like this. "You're wrong." Great Rock Demon Emperor stood up and said, "Although these world fragments belong to Araki Takashi, they're useless in his hands. They can only be used in our hands." "Humph." Dragon Emperor Huang Hai smirked and said, "In my opinion, it's still too early to tell if those world fragments belong to him." Wu Dao's original body still did not look up. He asked, "If they don't belong to me, do they belong to you?" Dragon Emperor Huang Hai said coldly, "You did kill 6 ordinary demonic emperors and 1 peerless demonic emperor. But if we didn't show up and scared Song's army away, how could you have kept those world fragments?" The demon emperors could not help but curse in their hearts. Shameless. Song's retreat was due to the death of 9 demon emperor and 6 ordinary demon emperors. It was a great shock to Ling Jiao and the other demon emperors. Before Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and the other 2 appeared, Song had already started to retreat. Before the battle, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai, Great Rock Demon Emperor, and Xueqi Demon Emperor found all kinds of excuses to avoid the battle. Now, they were shamelessly saying that Song's retreat was related to them. This time, even 9-tailed Demon Emperor could not stand it anymore. "What? The 3 of you just stood by during the battle. Now you want to take the credit?" 9-tailed Demon Emperor sneered. Great Rock Demon Emperor's face darkened. He said, "The 3 of us just stood by and protected the Eastern Wilderness. How can we stand by and do nothing?" Dragon Emperor Huang Hai stared at Wu Dao's original body and said slowly, "Araki Takashi, The reason I told you just now was to give you a way out. Hand over those world fragments and I will not make things difficult for you. Hearing this, Wu Dao's original body put down the wine bowl in his hand and finally looked up. He looked at Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and asked calmly, "What if I don't hand them over?" As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the main hall became tense. Don't hand them over? Dragon Emperor Huang Hai was stunned. He did not expect Wu Dao's original body to speak to him like this. But soon, he smiled sinisterly. He even exuded a bloody aura. He said word by word, "If you don't hand them over, I will take them myself." "You can try." Wu Dao's original body said coldly. The other demon emperors were speechless. They were worried for Wu Dao's original body. No one expected Wu Dao's original body to be so strong that he dared to challenge Dragon Emperor Huang Hai. Araki Takashi had just fought a great battle and was exhausted. If he fought Dragon Emperor Huang Hai now, he would not stand a chance. Chapter 2953. Huang Hai, you've crossed the line. At this moment, Dai Yu suddenly spoke. Her voice was calm and emotionless. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai turned to Dai Yu and said, "Xueqi, I just want to help you. You should know that Emperor Qing Yan could return at any time. You're injured and won't be able to stop Song's next attack. Only when I become a peak demon emperor can I help you defend the Eastern Baron." Dragon Emperor Huang Hai's words were so sincere that even Demon Monarch Bai Zhe, Emperor Qing Tian, and the others fell into deep thought. They were a little moved by his words. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Great Peng Demon Emperor said, "The Eastern Baron is in danger. What's wrong with Araki Takashi sacrificing himself for the greater good? We're just asking him to hand over some world fragments, not his life. Isn't it too selfish of him to guard those world fragments and not let go?" Dai Yu raised her eyebrows and asked, "Sacrificing others for the greater good? If that's the case, I want to heal and refine your world fragments. Are you going to hand them over?" Great Peng Demon Emperor's expression changed and snorted. "How can you compare them?" Dai Yu didn't say anything else. She just looked at the two with a faint smile. Great Peng Demon Emperor could be righteous when he talked about sacrificing others, but when it came to sacrificing himself, he became timid. In fact, this was the reason why Divine Elephant Demon Emperor and the others were willing to follow Dai Yu. If they could sacrifice others for the greater good, who could guarantee that they wouldn't be the next one to be sacrificed? "Xueqi," Dragon Emperor Huang Hai said, "you know that the Eastern Baron can't be defended. If I can get those world fragments and reach peak Demon Emperor, the Eastern Baron can still survive with my help. Otherwise, the Eastern Baron will perish." "Do you really think that Araki Takashi can stop Song's army and Emperor Qing Yan?" Dai Yu seemed to be dispirited. She waved her hand and said, "Just say what you want to say." Dragon Emperor Huang Hai was silent for a while before he slowly said, "If Araki Takashi hands over those world fragments, I'll have a chance to reach peak Demon Emperor and stay to help you. But if he doesn't, you can leave now." Dai Yu interrupted Dragon Emperor Huang Hai before he could finish his sentence. The other demonic thearchs were shocked when they heard these three words. Even though they had some disputes before, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Giant Peng Monarch Beast had even found excuses to avoid the battle, but they had never gone this far. And now, this layer of paper had finally been pierced through. Dragon Monarch Huang Hai lowered his head and said with a self-deprecating smile, "Xueqi, I have followed you for so many years but I can't even compare to this Araki Takashi? You'd rather protect him than drive me away?" Great Peng Demon Overlord also shook his head and said, "Xueqi, your words are too disappointing." Dai Yu looked at the other demon emperors and said, "Anyone else who wants to leave can leave with Huang Hai. I won't stop you." All the demonic emperors knew that Dai Yu would not go back on her words. The Kuei Ox Demon Emperor also sided with Dragon Emperor Huang Hai. The Black Snake Demon Emperor also wanted to leave the Eastern Baron territory. But when he sneaked a glance at Wu Dao's true body, his heart skipped a beat. The Divine Elephant Demon Emperor, Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor, Bai Zhe Demon Emperor, and Emperor Qing Tian did not move. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai's behavior might have fooled others, but not them. He was so aggressive and even wanted to snatch Araki Takashi's world fragment. It was all to find a good reason and excuse to leave the Eastern Baron territory and Dai Yu. If the Eastern Baron territory had not won the battle, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and the other two would have chosen to leave. He could not hide his intentions from the Divine Elephant Demon Emperor and the others, and naturally, he could not hide it from Dai Yu. Therefore, Dai Yu went with the flow. Since Dragon Emperor Huang Hai wanted to leave with a clear conscience, Dai Yu would fulfill his wish. It was also a way to put an end to their many years of friendship. Sigh. The Divine Elephant Demon Emperor suddenly sighed and said, "When we followed Xueqi, we were only demon kings. If it was not for her help, we would still be stuck in the Great Emperor realm." All these years, after the battle between the Eastern Barren Territory and the Tsong continent, Xueqi would give us the world fragments so that we could cultivate. If not, how could we cultivate to the great success Great Emperor realm? The cultivation resources of the Great Emperor realm are so precious and rare. For so many years, Xueqi gave us almost all of them. We have indeed fought with her for so many years, but when has she ever mistreated us? The Divine Elephant Demon Emperor was one of the first 12 demon kings to follow Dai Yu. Now that he knew that he would have to part with Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Rock Demon Emperor, he had something to say. Xueqi fought with the strong cultivators of the Tsong continent and did not want to retreat. Not only for her Dao, but also to protect our homeland. The Divine Elephant Demon Emperor said loudly, she also did it for her 9 brothers, Wild Ox, Rock Bear, Giant Python, Blood Ape, Divine Chariot, Hell Tiger, Wind Leopard, Spirit Turtle, and Godly Phoenix. She knew that 9 of the 12 demon kings that followed her had died in the hands of Tsong. She wanted to avenge them. You were also one of the 12 demon kings, but you left her when she was in the most difficult time. What is there to be disappointed about? Do you really think that Xueqi did not know what you were thinking? She just did not want to expose you because of her old relationship with you. She is the one who is disappointed. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Rock Demon Emperor lowered their heads. Perhaps because they felt guilty, they did not dare to look at Dai Yu or the Divine Elephant Demon Emperor. Say no more. Dai Yu waved her hand and said indifferently, everyone has their own ambitions. That Emperor Qing Yan is of the Azure Dragon bloodline. He is of the same race as you. I can understand why you are willing to submit to him. Azure Dragon race. Su Zimo heard this and his heart skipped a beat. This was the first time he had heard of Emperor Qing Yan's background. No wonder he was so powerful. The Azure Dragon bloodline was the strongest among the dragons. It was said that there might not be a single Azure Dragon bloodline born in every era in the dragon world. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai sighed and finally looked up at Dai Yu. Xueqi, the general trend is coming. Anyone who stands in our way will be crushed. Can Tsong represent the general trend? Wu Dao asked indifferently. If he can't, do you think you can? Dragon Emperor Huang Hai still had some respect for Dai Yu, but he did not treat Wu Dao well. He glared at Dai Yu and retorted. As long as I am here, I am the general trend. Wu Dao stood up slowly. This action was normal. However, as he said this, Wu Dao's body emitted an aura that surpassed the heavens and earth. Even Dragon Emperor Huang Hai frowned and took half a step back instinctively. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai quickly realized that he had shown his cowardice by taking half a step back. His face darkened. Araki Takashi. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai said coldly, when we fight again in the future, I might go easy on others because of our old friendship. However, you better be careful. I have no friendship with you. Chapter 2954. Since Dai Yu was there and had asked Dragon Emperor Huang Hai to leave, Wu Dao would not attack him. Moreover, he had just gone through a great battle and had used up a lot of his energy. He had no confidence in defeating Dragon Emperor Huang Hai without using the Yuan Wu Grotto Heaven. However, things would be different if he made a breakthrough in his cultivation level. Once he became a boundary emperor, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai might not be able to withstand Wu Dao's purgatory. Divine Elephant Beast Emperor held up a bowl of wine and said to Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and Great Rock Beast Emperor, "Drink this and we will no longer be friends. Don't hold back in the battle in the future." All right. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai did not hesitate. He drank the wine and looked at Dai Yu, Divine Elephant Beast Emperor, and the others. I hope you will not regret your decision when the Eastern Wilderness is destroyed. With that, Dragon Emperor Huang Hai, Great Rock Beast Emperor, and Ox Beast Emperor turned and left. Just as the three were about to leave the hall, Dai Yu suddenly said, Qing Yan has a special background and a powerful bloodline. He sees all living things as ants. You may be dragons, but you are no different in his eyes. Song might not be a good home for you. Be careful in the future. After all, they had known each other for many years. This was Dai Yu's last warning to Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and the others. Dragon Emperor Huang Hai paused for a moment before moving again. He disappeared from the sky above Butterfly Valley without looking back. When the other demonic emperors saw this, they had mixed feelings and lamented in their hearts. With the departure of Dragon Emperor Huang Hai and the others, the eastern wilderness strength was greatly reduced. Dai Yu was injured and the beast emperors beside her were only Divine Elephant, Nine-Tailed, Bai Zai, Qing Tian, Shen Snake, and Araki Takashi. When Emperor Qing Yan returned, how could the eastern wilderness resist him? Although the monarchs did not say anything, their hearts were shrouded in a layer of haze. They had just gone through a great battle and the beast emperors did not plan to stay here for long. They all left and prepared to return to their mountains. In the blink of an eye, only Dai Yu and Su Zimo were left in the hall. You're the one who brought the 3 people outside the Butterfly Valley, right? Dai Yu looked at Su Zimo and asked. Then she exclaimed softly, that sanguine ape seems to be the one from Tsonglang Mountain Range? Exactly. Su Zimo smiled and nodded. I didn't expect it to ascend as well. Dai Yu muttered softly. Su Zimo said, back then, you imparted the Tendon's transformation chapter of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness to him. It was probably also because of the bloodline in his body. Dai Yu nodded. Back then, she had 12 demon monarchs following her. One of them was the Blood Ape Demon Monarch. However, the Blood Ape Demon King had died in the battle against Song. When Dai Yu landed in Tianhuang mainland and saw a sanguine ape in Songlang Mountain Range, she could not help but think of the sanguine ape Demon King who had died in battle. That was why she decided to impart Dao techniques to him. Su Zimo asked, actually, there was the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Did you just create it at the last minute? Yes. Dai Yu said, the 12 cultivation techniques originated from the 12 demon kings. I've made some changes to make it suitable for you to cultivate. Although I created this mystic classic at the last minute, it incorporates the core Dao techniques of the 12 demon kings. Even in the upper world, it's considered an extremely top-notch cultivation technique. Indeed. Su Zimo nodded. The mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness played a crucial role in his cultivation to this stage. After pausing for a moment, Su Zimo continued, this cultivation technique is indeed powerful. However, the name of this cultivation technique is rather ordinary. Dai Yu's gaze was unfriendly as it revealed a hint of danger. Su Zimo roared in laughter. Dai Yu flicked her fingernails gently, making clanking sounds as she said faintly, you're really getting more and more impudent. Su Zimo sensed that Dai Yu's tone was not right and hurriedly changed the topic. All right, there's one more thing. As he spoke, Su Zimo took out a storage bag and took out a few gray stones from it. He asked, this is the storage bag of the 9 Demon Emperor. What are these stones? Origin stones. Dai Yu's eyes lit up as she said softly, the Genesis Chi in the Origin stones is extremely pure. However, Origin stones can't be found in the middle world. The 9 Demon Emperor probably has them because he came from Tsong. Su Zimo seemed to have thought of something and muttered thoughtfully, so these stones are Origin stones. After a while, Su Zimo asked, can Origin stones help with your injuries? Of course. Dai Yu nodded. Only by absorbing and refining a large amount of Genesis Chi can one repair the world. In this aspect, Origin stones are far more useful than world fragments. How many Origin stones are there in the 9 Demon Emperor's storage bag? Only these few, said Su Zimo. Dai Yu was a little disappointed and shook her head. There are too few Origin stones. It's far from enough to repair my perfect world. Upon hearing this, Su Zimo took out another storage bag and poured out a large pile of Origin stones, scattering them on the ground. He asked, is this enough? Dai Yu was dumbstruck by this scene and stood rooted to the spot. Origin stones were extremely rare in the middle world. Even if there was only one piece, it would cause numerous emperors to fight over it. The Origin stones that Su Zimo had poured out were likely over 1,000. Dai Yu was stunned for a long time before she recovered and asked, where did you get so many Origin stones? Didn't I say before that I killed a young man from the heavenly court in the 9 underworld Sind grounds, and even attracted the pursuit of a peak emperor? Su Zimo said, there were Origin stones in that young man's storage bag. However, I didn't know the origin of these stones back then. Are these origin stones enough to repair your injuries? Su Zimo asked again. I think so, Dai Yu nodded. Initially, she did not know how to deal with Tsong's next attack. However, with these origin stones, she would be confident of fighting against Emperor Green Flame and the others once she recovered from her injuries. Although Su Zimo had countless things to say to Dai Yu, time was of the essence and Emperor Green Flame could return at any moment. At that thought, Su Zimo said, You should cultivate in seclusion. I have a few sworn brothers in Tianhuang mainland. Apart from the 3 in Butterfly Valley, there's also a little fox who should be a disciple of the 9-tailed demon emperor. Let's head to the 9-tailed demon emperor's place to take a look at the little fox. We're planning to enter seclusion as well. After this battle, apart from obtaining many world fragments, he also killed many demon kings and devoured many grotto heavens. Once he refined all those grotto heavens, the origin martial grotto heaven would have a chance to transform and produce a trace of world power. At the same time, he had already confirmed Wu Dao's next dermic formulation. With Dai Yu's impartation, Wu Dao's purgatory would have a chance to transform and advance to a quasi-emperor as well. The two of them had a tacit understanding and left without saying anything else. Chapter 2955. Outside Butterfly Valley. The tiger, Qing Qing, and the golden lion were still waiting here. After all, this was an important place in Eastern Wilderness, and the 3 of them did not dare to wander around. Occasionally, they would hear news from outside that the Eastern Wilderness had defeated Tsong's army again. There were even several demon thearchs who had died, killed by Araki Takashi. When the 3 of them heard this, they naturally felt proud. Qing Qing and the golden lion were still fine. When the tiger saw the butterfly clan passing by, he could not help but go up and chat with them. Then, intentionally or unintentionally, he revealed that Araki Takashi was their sworn brother. I heard that Eastern Wilderness had a great victory this time. It's really worth celebrating. Our boss should have also contributed a little. Who's your boss? Don't you know? His Taoist name is Araki Takashi. He just came to Eastern Wilderness not long ago. Similar conversations happened frequently. However, those butterfly fairies only covered their mouths and snickered. They did not believe it at all. Who was Araki Takashi? The current lord of the Taiya mountain range had personally killed a peerless demon the Arch and 6 ordinary demon thearchs. How could such a person become sworn brothers with this simple-minded person in front of them? Every time this happened, Qing Qing and the golden lion could not help but roll their eyes and turn around, trying to stay as far away from the tiger as possible. When Wu Dao's original body arrived, he saw this scene. The tiger was stopping a few butterfly fairies and talking with assurance. He told them about their experiences of roaming Tianhuang. He spoke until his saliva was flying everywhere, and his face was flushed. The butterfly fairies opposite him looked at him with disdain. The tiger bragged even more happily and did not realize that Wu Dao's original body had already arrived behind him. Those butterfly fairies recognized Wu Dao's original body. Their eyes lit up, and they all showed respect. Pah! Wu Dao's original body raised his hand and slapped the back of the tiger's head. Who hit Master Tiger? Tiger was annoyed that he was interrupted. He turned around and glared at him. Just as he was about to curse, his face suddenly changed. He smiled and said, "Boss, it's you." Then, the tiger quickly turned around and looked at the butterfly fairies. He patted his chest and said, "Look, I didn't lie to you, right? This is really my boss. Let's go and see Little Fox." Wu Dao called out to Qing Qing and the golden lion. Together with the tiger, they entered the space tunnel and disappeared from Butterfly Valley. Qingqiu Mountains. Wu Dao's true self brought the tiger and the others to the place and immediately located the 9-tailed monarch beast's location with his divine sense. Meanwhile, the 9 martial monarchs who were meditating in seclusion were aware of something. They slowly opened their seductive eyes. "I haven't even looked for you yet, and you've taken the initiative to come to me." The 9-tailed monarch beast let out a hollow laugh. "Fellow Taoist Araki Takashi, what brings you here?" The 9-tailed monarch beast walked out and smiled at Wu Dao's true self, asking gently, "Good lad." The tiger glanced at the 9-tailed demon monarch. Instantly, he could not control himself and turned his head away. The golden lion lowered its head as well. Even Qing Qing could not help but take a few more glances at the 9-tailed monarch beast who was also a woman. Every single action, frown and smile of the nine-tailed monarch beast exuded an irresistible temptation that could evoke the most primitive desires in the depths of one's heart. The Dao heart of Wu Dao's true self was firm and unshakable. The nine-tailed monarch beast's charm could not affect him. He merely frowned slightly and did not think too much about it, assuming that it was due to the bloodline of the nine-tailed monarch beast's race. Wu Dao's true self said, "There's an old friend of ours from Tianhuang mainland in the fox race. I heard that she was taken in as a disciple by you, nine-tailed. I'd like to meet her today." "Little Tanuki?" The nine-tailed monarch beast blinked and smiled. "That's easy. Little Tanuki is in seclusion right now. Come with me and wait over there for a moment." As she said that, the nine-tailed monarch beast led the way and led Wu Dao's true self and the other three to a fur tent not far away. Wu Dao's true self followed behind the nine-tailed monarch beast and stepped into the tent. What greeted him was a delicate fragrance. Suddenly, Wu Dao's true self felt dazed. The robes of the nine-tailed monarch beast before him seemed to have slipped off by accident, revealing half of her snow-white shoulders. For some reason, Wu Dao's true self felt his heart skip a beat and he could not control his emotions. The tiger, Qing Qing and the golden lion had already disappeared. It seemed like he and the nine-tailed monarch beast were the only ones left in the tent. Not good. The martial Dao body felt a sense of foreboding. He quickly gathered his thoughts and stabilized his Dao heart. Right then, the nine-tailed monarch beast turned around. Her robe seemed to have turned as thin as a cicada's wings and were almost transparent. Her breasts were faintly discernible and her beautiful legs were long and slender. 9 furry tails swayed gently behind her and she exuded an extremely seductive aura from head to toe. Fellow Taoist Araki Takashi. The nine-tailed monarch beast moaned and her cheeks flushed. Her red lips parted slightly and she breathed out like an orchid. She moved gracefully and pounced into the embrace of Wu Dao's true self. Indeed, that sort of seduction could not shake the Dao heart of Wu Dao's true self. However, the nine-tailed monarch beast seduction technique did not only target the Dao heart, it targeted the essence spirit as well. As for Wu Dao's true self, he had just gone through a huge battle and had yet to rest. As such, his essence spirit was greatly depleted and there was no way he could defend against the peerless monarch beast's methods. Even the mask of Mo Luo was helpless against such a seduction technique. Wu Dao's true self had not expected the nine-tailed monarch beast to attack him either. His Dao heart was stable and although his consciousness was a little chaotic, he could still maintain a trace of clarity. Of course, he did not think that the nine-tailed monarch beast was truly interested in him. While his thoughts were running wild, the nine-tailed monarch beast had already arrived before him. A fragrance wafted over as the nine-tailed monarch beast's lithe figure swayed slightly. Wu Dao's true self closed his eyes hurriedly and clenched his fists as his consciousness turned even more chaotic. A hint of mockery flashed through the depths of the nine-tailed monarch beast's eyes when she saw that. Just as she reached out and was about to grab Wu Dao's true self, the latter's eyes suddenly sprang open. 2 balls of purple flames burned in his eyes and his gaze was bright like torches. All of a sudden, Wu Dao's true self reached out and gripped the nine-tailed monarch beast's slender snow-white neck at lightning speed. A hint of panic flashed through the nine-tailed monarch beast's face. However, she soon calmed down and said in a pitiful tone with a seductive look, "Brother, what are you doing? You're hurting me." Wu Dao's true self had an icy expression. He exerted some force and grabbed the nine-tailed monarch beast's throat, lifting her up as if he did not know how to be gentle with a woman. "What are you trying to do?" Wu Dao's true self asked coldly. The nine-tailed monarch beast was about to speak when Wu Dao's true self interrupted her. "That trick is useless against me. Stop embarrassing yourself." As a matter of fact, Wu Dao's true self had almost fallen into the nine-tailed monarch beast's trap. However, just as he was about to fall into the trap, the white jade pendant that the demonic emperor gave him in his storage bag vibrated all of a sudden, waking Wu Dao's true self up instantly. Chapter 2956. The nine-tailed beast emperor no longer pretended. She was shocked and furious. In reality, she had dragged the martial Dao body into her bewitching world and used the power and Dao techniques of the world to influence the mind of the martial Dao body. In her opinion, Araki Takashi had just gone through a huge battle and had consumed a lot of his energy. He would not be able to resist her enchanted world. Moreover, Araki Takashi did seem to be struggling at the beginning. However, for some reason, Araki Takashi suddenly regained consciousness and broke free from her influence. The two of them were very close to each other. The nine-tailed beast emperor had lost the initiative and was restrained by Wu Dao. She did not dare to act rashly. How did you break free from my enchanted world? The nine-tailed beast emperor was unwilling to admit defeat. Her expression was cold and she no longer looked seductive. Answer my question. Wu Dao exerted more force and the nine-tailed beast emperor's face turned red. She looked like she was in pain. If the nine-tailed beast emperor was not Little Fox's master, Wu Dao would have killed her. Furthermore, he was a bit confused. He did not know why the nine-tailed heavenly fox would have such great enmity towards him. Sister Xueqi is mine. No one can take her away from me. The nine-tailed beast emperor gritted her teeth and said, Not even you. Upon hearing this, Wu Dao was stunned. What does this mean? The nine-tailed beast emperor was attacking him because of Dai Yu? Moreover, it was for this reason? Su Zimo had imagined a similar situation. Dai Yu was so beautiful that she might have some powerful suitors in the vast wilderness. If he wanted to be with Dai Yu, he would have to deal with these troubles. However, he did not expect that his opponent would be the nine-tailed beast emperor. For a moment, the martial Dao body felt that it was a little absurd and inexplicable. If it was for some other reason, even if he did not kill the nine-tailed beast emperor, he would teach the nine-tailed beast emperor a lesson. However, he did not know how to deal with the nine-tailed beast emperor's reason. This is going to be troublesome. Wu Dao felt a headache coming on. This situation was much more troublesome than he had imagined. It would be better to have a few strong enemies appear and have a great battle. Now that he was facing the nine-tailed demon emperor, he did not know whether to fight or not. In the blink of an eye, Wu Dao's true body's palm gradually relaxed. Now that the nine-tailed monarch beast had a chance to catch her breath, her eyes flickered coldly. She swayed her 9 fox tails and wrapped them around the arms of Wu Dao's actual body. The tails continued to spread, and were trying to bind the limbs and body of Wu Dao's actual body. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the tent. He wore a blood-red robe, and his black hair was like a waterfall. Dai Yu! Seeing Dai Yu, nine-tailed demon fox became very pitiful. She withdrew her tail from Wu Dao's body and threw herself into Dai Yu's bosom. She said with grievance, Sister Dai Yu, this person you found is very bad. He had just made a great contribution, and yet he was so arrogant that he came to the Green Hill Mountains to bully me and take my body. Big sister, look, my neck is purple because of him. The nine-tailed monarch beast's slender neck was indeed bruised by the palm of Wu Dao's actual body. Wu Dao's actual body listened to the nine-tailed demon fox's nonsense, but he did not explain himself. Dai Yu shook her head helplessly. She reached out her finger and flicked the nine-tailed monarch beast's head, saying softly, Stop fooling around. The little trick did not escape Dai Yu's eyes. As she was about to go into seclusion, she suddenly recalled that Su Zimo had mentioned that he was going to the Green Hill Mountains. She then realized that there might be some misunderstanding between the two, thus she immediately made her way over. Sister, you don't believe me? The nine-tailed monarch beast asked. No. Dai Yu replied with a simple word. Humph. The nine-tailed monarch beast harumphed and glared at Wu Dao's actual body. Don't trouble him in the future, Dai Yu said to the nine-tailed monarch beast before looking at Su Zimo. She gestured with her eyes and the two of them left the tent side by side. When the two of them were far away, they turned around at the same time and looked at each other without saying a word. After a long time, the two of them laughed at the same time. What's going on? Su Zimo asked with a smile. Dai Yu replied, I saved her when she was young. Therefore, she has a special relationship with me and is more reliant on me. Su Zimo could not help but think of Little Fox and nodded. I understand. Dai Yu sized up Su Zimo again. You were able to resist the charm of the nine-tailed monarch beast even before the battle ended? I was lucky. Su Zimo felt a lingering fear. If not for the white jade pendant, he would not have been able to explain himself when he was trapped in the bewitching world of the nine-tailed monarch beast and was caught by Dai Yu. Is it nice? Dai Yu suddenly asked. That question came out of nowhere. Su Zimo was about to nod instinctively when he realized that something was wrong. He calmed himself down and pretended to be confused. What? Dai Yu narrowed her eyes and stared at Su Zimo for a while before chuckling and waving her hand. I'll let you off. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief. That moment was even more exciting than facing the nine-tailed monarch beast. In the tent, the nine-tailed monarch beast looked at the two of them leaving side by side and clenched her fists. She felt extremely wronged and her eyes were covered with a layer of mist. This time, she was not pretending. She really felt wronged. Before that Araki Takashi appeared, had Daiyu ever scolded her or said anything harsh to her? But earlier on, Daiyu even flicked her finger for that Araki Takashi. That was really painful. She suddenly realized that the person in her heart might really be taken away by someone else. Araki Takashi. Araki Takashi. The nine-tailed monarch beast repeated twice, and the more she thought about it, the angrier and more wronged she felt. In order to bewitch that Araki Takashi, she even used her bewitching world and took off her clothes so that he could see most of her body. But in the end, it did not work. At the thought of it, didn't that mean that she was taken advantage of by that Araki Takashi for nothing? At the thought of that, the nine-tailed monarch beast's face flushed red and she was anxious, angry and embarrassed. Footsteps could be heard from outside the tent. The nine-tailed monarch beast hurriedly composed herself and took out her original clothes from her storage bag, putting them on again. After settling this matter, Daiyu returned to Butterfly Valley to continue her seclusion. After parting ways with Daiyu, Suzumo returned to the tent and was prepared to ask about Little Fox's whereabouts with Tiger and the other two. After entering the tent, Suzumo could not help but be stunned when he saw the nine-tailed monarch beast who was dressed neatly and covered herself up. He did not have any other thoughts. However, the nine-tailed monarch beast in front of him was too different from before, and he could not react for a moment. However, Suzumo's gaze gave off a different feeling to the nine-tailed monarch beast. The nine-tailed monarch beast felt that she was still in her half-naked state under Suzumo's gaze. Chapter 2957. In order to avoid awkwardness, Wu Dao's true body turned to look at Tiger, Qing Qing and the golden lion who were not far away and asked, "Are they all right?" Tiger and the other two had lost consciousness the moment they stepped into the tent. Naturally, Wu Dao's true body could tell that the three of them were merely unconscious and unharmed. His question was merely to change the topic. "They're fine." The nine-tailed demon fox's expression relaxed slightly as she looked in the direction of the three of them and exhaled gently. The three of them woke up slowly with dazed expressions. Right then, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard from outside the tent. Someone had arrived at an extremely fast speed, as though they were in a hurry. When they arrived at the tent, the person had no intention of stopping and barged in directly. Wu Dao's true body turned around. A 13 or 14-year-old girl walked in. She was slender and elegant, and her beauty was flawless. Although she had grown up a lot, one could still tell that she was a little fox. When the little fox saw so many people in the tent, she was slightly stunned as well. However, she could not help but smile when she saw that Tiger and the other two were among them. Then, the little fox's gaze landed on Wu Dao's body. Wu Dao's true body was wearing purple robes that were vastly different from his usual green robes. Coupled with the Mara mask, it was normal that the little fox could not recognize him. However, for some reason, the little fox looked at Wu Dao's true body without blinking. She had a feeling that she could not help but want to get close to this person, giving her a sense of security that felt familiar. She had only felt this feeling from a single person before. Just like that, the little fox looked into the eyes of Wu Dao's true body, as though she was trying her best to decipher something as her eyes gradually turned misty. "Sir?" The little fox called out softly. Wu Dao's true body took off his mask and opened his arms, saying gently, "It's me." The little fox burst into tears and dove into the embrace of Wu Dao's true body. Her slightly skinny arms hugged Wu Dao's true body tightly, as though she was afraid that he would disappear the next moment. There was no need for too many words between the two of them. A single hug was more than 1,000 words. When the nine-tailed demon emperor saw that, she was touched as well. She had personally experienced the little fox's reliance and closeness towards Wu Dao's true body. Old Tiger, Qing Qing, and the golden lion stood not far away with smiles on their faces. They did not disturb them. They knew that the little fox's feelings for Suzumo was ultimately different from theirs. They were brothers who could share trials and tribulations together. However, in the heart of the little fox to them. Initially, the nine-tailed demon emperor still had some resentment towards the martial Dao body. However, at the sight of this, her resentment dissipated instantly. Even if it was for the little fox's true body to the nine-tailed demons true to herself. The nine-tailed demon emperor did not disturb the two of them. Instead, she quietly walked out of the tent, leaving it to them. When she reached the entrance of the tent, perhaps out of curiosity, the nine-tailed demon emperor turned around and stole a glance at Wu Dao's true body. So, he looks all right, the nine-tailed demon emperor thought to herself. When she saw Wu Dao's true body wearing a silver mask all day long, she thought that he would look extremely ugly with a green face and fangs. She did not expect him to look like a scholar with delicate features. As though he had sensed the nine-tailed demon emperor's gaze, Wu Dao's true body looked up and nodded with a smile at her. The nine-tailed demon emperor panicked as though her thoughts had been seen through. She averted her gaze and left the tent as though she was escaping. Wu Dao's true body did not think much of it. He nodded and smiled at the nine-tailed demon monarch to express his gratitude and goodwill. The little fox could barge into the nine-tailed demon emperor's tent casually without anyone stopping her or reporting. That alone was proof of how much the nine-tailed demon emperor doted on the little fox. The little fox must have never been mistreated in the nine-tailed demon emperor's place. Earlier on, Wu Dao's true body was thanking the nine-tailed demon emperor for taking care of him over the years. Furthermore, Wu Dao's true body realized that the little fox's cultivation was not weak either. She was already at the heavenly being stage of the true self realm. That cultivation speed was considered top-notch among his old friends in Tianhuang mainland in this lifetime. All right. Wu Dao's true body patted the back of the little fox gently. Get up. The little fox continued to bury her head in the embrace of Wu Dao's true body and refused to get up. She wrapped her arms around his waist and hugged him tightly, as though she was afraid that Wu Dao's true body would run away. Wu Dao's true body smiled. I'm going to stay in the vast wilderness for a long time and won't leave casually. When the little fox heard that, her arms relaxed. Thereafter, she transformed from her human form into her true form and burrowed into the embrace of Wu Dao's true body, just like how she did at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. Most of her body was hidden in the chest of Wu Dao's true body, revealing only her furry head outside. She looked up at Wu Dao's true body and blinked her watery eyes. Wu Dao's true body did not say anything and allowed her to do as she pleased. It was only then that Tiger and the other two came over. Tiger teased, "Little fox, you're so biased. You didn't even greet us after not seeing us for a long time." The little fox harumphed as a greeting to Tiger. That's way too perfunctory. Tiger rolled his eyes. After ascending to the upper world, the five of them had to go through countless hardships to be able to reunite in the vast wilderness. It was truly difficult to describe. Even so, the whereabouts of 2 of the 7 of them were unknown. Now that the 5 of them were gathered, Monkey and Night Spirit were the only ones missing. As the 5 of them conversed, they would inevitably mention the 2 of them with worried expressions. Tiger, Ching Ching, Golden Lion and the little fox had remained in the vast wilderness ever since they ascended and had never left. They were unlike Wu Dao's true body who had already traveled through many realms. They did not have any news about Monkey and Night Spirit. Wu Dao's true body said, "There are some clues about Night Spirit. He appeared in the fiend battlefield of the celestial tribute world before disappearing without a trace." Wu Dao's true body recounted some of the information he heard about Night Spirit in the celestial tribute world. Given Night Spirit's combat strength, he shouldn't be in any danger even if he roams the 3,000 realms. Wu Dao's true body said, "There are no clues about Monkey yet. However, I'm guessing that he should be in the Blood Ape world." Monkey belonged to the Blood Ape race. If he did not appear in the vast wilderness, the most likely possibility was that he had descended in the Blood Ape world. Although the Blood Ape world was not a super world, it had Emperor Lords as well. Monkey should not be in any danger in the Blood Ape world as well. However, no one knew how long it would take for the brothers to reunite. Wu Dao's true body chatted with Tiger and the other 3 in the tent for an entire day and night. The 5 of them had endless things to talk about after reuniting after a long time. They would not feel tired even if they chatted for a year. However, the crisis of the vast wilderness had yet to be resolved. Wu Dao's true body was concerned about Dai Yu and did not stay for long. The next day, Wu Dao's true body left Green Hill Mountain Range and entered seclusion. If he wanted to help Dai Yu and Eastern Wilderness tide through this crisis, he had to raise his cultivation realm. End of chapter. Chapter 2958. To Wu Dao's main body. Wu Dao's future was already clear. Everything returned to one, and all paths led to the same destination. After the martial domain realm was the Emperor realm. However, the Emperor realm was a major realm after all. Stepping into the Emperor realm was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Wu Dao's main body had to first transform his Yuan Wu Grotto Heaven and Wu Dao's Purgatory to produce a trace of world power. Only by becoming a quasi-emperor would he have the chance to truly step into the Emperor realm. Wu Dao's main body did not intend to refine the world fragment. Not only did the world fragment contain many profound Dao arts, but more importantly, it also contained Genesis Qi. To him, it was a waste to refine the world fragment now. As long as he refined the many grotto heavens collected from the two battles, the Yuan Wu Grotto Heaven would have a chance to improve further. Wu Dao's Purgatory would also improve after refining the Dao and Dao arts in those grotto heavens. In fact, Su Zimo and Dai Yu had not seen each other for many years and wanted to spend more time together. Even if they did not speak, just quietly accompanying each other would be good. But now, Eastern Wilderness was still in danger and time was of the essence. If they could not survive this calamity, Su Zimo might even be buried with Dai Yu in the Great Wilderness, let alone spend the rest of their lives together. Time flew by. 800 years passed in the blink of an eye. For the cultivation world, 800 years passed by too quickly, like the passing of a white steed. For the vast majority of living beings, it was difficult to raise their cultivation level by a small realm in 800 years. Ever since the Battle of the Celestial Tribute World, Sword World Suzhou became famous and the reputation of Ninth Sword Peak also rose. There were many disciples in Ninth Sword Peak and it was extremely lively. It was naturally different from when Ninth Sword Peak was first built. On this day, guests from afar came to visit Sword World's Ninth Sword Peak. A sword cultivator had already gone to Ninth Sword Peak's eldest senior sister, Kitsune's cave abode, to inform her. All the sword cultivators knew that the Ninth Sword Peak's Peakmaster was cultivating in seclusion and would not come out unless something major happened. Most of the matters on the Ninth Sword Peak were handled by Kitsune. After 800 years of cultivation, Kitsune's cultivation had also improved. She had comprehended a supreme divine ability, and she had also cultivated to the Deshang stage of the true martial realm. This cultivation speed had already far surpassed that of cultivators of the same level. Although Yun Ting of the Extreme Sword Peak had also cultivated to the heavenly being stage of the true first realm, he was firmly suppressed by Kitsune in terms of battle strength. In Wu Dao, Kitsune's talent in swordsmanship was undoubtedly revealed. When Kitsune saw the two guests who came to visit, she pondered for a moment and decided to go to Su Zimo's cave residence to wake him up. These two were from the flower world. One of them was immortal King Yulan, who had helped Su Zimo and the sword world in the celestial tribute world. The other was the disciple of immortal King Yulan, Mu Lian. In the evil demon battlefield, Mu Lian was also one of the few supreme true spirits who had helped Su Zimo. Most importantly, Mu Lian did not seem to be in a good condition. She was injured, looked dispirited, and had a weak aura. She was barely able to stand with the help of immortal King Yulan. Kitsune knew her master's temperament. If he knew that immortal King Yulan and Mu Lian had come to visit, he would definitely come out of seclusion. As expected. After Kitsune reported, Su Zimo immediately woke up and went out to welcome immortal King Yulan and Mu Lian into the cave residence. Immortal King Yulan said with a smile, "We haven't seen each other for 800 years. Congratulations. Fellow Taoist Su's cultivation has improved again." In 800 years, Su Zimo had already stepped into the void transformation stage of the true first realm. He had gained too much from the battle in the evil demon battlefield. Just the Tao fruits of the supreme true spirits alone were more than 20. Over the years, he had only refined 3 out of the 20 Tao fruits. He could step into the void transformation stage so quickly because he had comprehended 2 more supreme divine abilities: Fleeting Youth and Space-Time Shackles. Fleeting Youth was originally a peerless divine ability. However, in the Emperor's tomb, he had obtained immortal Emperor Chen Mu's legacy. Over the years, he had already perfectly fused Fleeting Youth and Morning Bell and Evening Drum, finally pushing Fleeting Youth to the height of a supreme divine ability. As for comprehending space-time shackles, it was also a matter of course. The Tao of time was contained within that fleeting moment of youth. As for the Tao of space, it was in the Linglong chess game that immortal King Linglong had imparted to him. In other words, the supreme divine abilities that Su Zimo had comprehended so far were 4 heads 8 arms, 8 fangs divine power, immortal slaying sword, dragon and elephant Buddhas, 6 paths of reincarnation, fleeting youth, vermilion bird heavenly fire, limitless yin and yang, and space-time shackles. 9 supreme divine abilities, unprecedented and unparalleled. 9 supreme divine abilities baptized the body, bloodline, and essence spirit. Coupled with the foundation of the grade 12 creation Qinglian, Su Zimo's body and essence spirit had already reached the grotto heaven realm. In the face of immortal King Yolan's greetings, Su Zimo smiled. He could see that there was a trace of worry between immortal King Yolan's brows. His gaze fell on Mulyan, who was beside immortal King Yulan. Su Zimo frowned. A faint smell of blood came from Mulyan's body. She was in a very bad state and had suffered serious injuries. Although Mulyan was wearing a bamboo hat and a black veil, Su Zimo could still detect that Mulyan's originally fair face was covered with scarlet blood vessels. It was extremely terrifying. What's going on? Su Zimo did not exchange pleasantries with immortal King Yulan and asked directly while pointing at Mulyan. At the mention of this matter, immortal King Yulan sighed and said, Mulyan was severely injured by someone from the blood world and her essence spirit and bloodline were tainted with the poison of the filthy blood. If we make a move, we can save Mulyan's life. However, her essence spirit will inevitably be injured and her cultivation will be crippled. At this point, immortal King Yulan paused for a moment, as though she had thought of something and hesitated. Fellow Taoist Su. Immortal King Yulan suddenly sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. I'm guessing that you might possess the creation Qinglian bloodline and might have a way to save Mulyan. I know that this request is a little abrupt, but don't worry, fellow Taoist Su. I won't reveal the secret of your creation Qinglian bloodline. In fact, immortal King Yulan had already noticed Su Zimo's uniqueness when she first met Su Zimo, which was why she took the initiative to befriend him. After all, she belonged to the plant race and her perception of the creation Qinglian bloodline was different from other races. Later on, when she saw Su Zimo's methods in the fiend battlefield, she deduced that Su Zimo most likely possessed the creation Qinglian bloodline. Let me take a look. Su Zimo did not hesitate and asked immortal King Yulan to place Mulyan on a bed not far away. He lifted the veil of his bamboo hat and used his spirit consciousness to check the situation in Mulyan's body. When he and the Sword Realm were besieged by many realms in the celestial tribute world, immortal King Yulan and Mulyan were one of the few people who helped the Sword Realm and him. Moreover, Mulyan was from the Qinglian bloodline. No matter what the reason was, Su Zimo would not stand by and do nothing. Su Zimo carefully checked Mulyan's body. The injuries on Mulyan's body were not serious. The main thing was that her bloodline and essence spirit were tainted with a kind of filthy bloodline. As long as it was removed, Mulyan would be able to recover. Who in the blood realm can hurt her? Su Zimo asked. After all, Mulyan was a supreme true spirit. Even if she was not a match, it would be difficult for cultivators of the same level to injure her to this extent. Chapter 2959. Immortal King Yulan sighed softly. Fellow Taoist Su, you recognize that person as well. He's the supreme true spirit that escaped from your hands, blood pattern of the blood world. It's him? Su Zimo raised his brow slightly. He had some impression of blood pattern. Back in Heaven Tribute Square, blood pattern had a dispute with Mulyan and Long Li. In the evil demon battlefield, blood pattern was one of those who surrounded him. However, that person was the most decisive in escaping. When he saw that the situation was bad, he summoned his Heaven Tribute token right away and escaped the battlefield, saving his life. After checking, Su Zimo was relieved. This injury isn't difficult to treat. Upon hearing that, immortal King Yulan heaved a sigh of relief. If it was anyone else, Mulyan's injuries would indeed be troublesome. After all, the tainted blood had already tainted her essence spirit and bloodline. If she wanted to treat it, it would definitely hurt Mulyan's foundation and cultivation. However, it was extremely easy for Su Zimo. No matter how strong the bloodline of the Bloodvine race was, it could not taint the bloodline of the grade 12 creation Qinglian. At the end of the day, the Bloodvine race belonged to the category of plant life forms. In terms of bloodline, the creation Qinglian had an absolute suppression effect against them. With the help of the grade 12 creation Qinglian bloodline, Su Zimo could remove the tainted blood in Mulyan's body with his lotus birth finger. Because Mulyan was also a member of the Qinglian race, not only would her cultivation not be damaged after receiving the nourishment of the grade 12 creation Qinglian bloodline, her body, bloodline and essence spirit would also be nourished. In the cave abode, Su Zimo had no intention of hiding. Right in front of immortal King Yulan and the others, he executed lotus birth finger on Mulyan's body. It was a Dao technique that was powered by the creation Qinglian bloodline. Even if immortal King Yulan learned it, it would be useless. In less than 5 minutes, the blood vessels on Mulyan's face gradually faded. 2 hours later, Mulyan's complexion returned to normal. Her face was rosy and her breathing was stable as she fell into a deep sleep. After the tainted blood was removed from her body, Mulyan could use her own bloodline to quickly recover her vitality. What happened? Seeing that Mulyan was out of danger and had yet to wake up, Su Zimo turned to look at immortal King Yulan and asked, "How did Mulyan get into a fight with Xueqi and get injured to this extent?" Su Zimo had fought with Xueqi before. Even if Xueqi's battle power was higher than Mulyan's, it was not much higher. Even if Mulyan couldn't win, she could at least retreat unscathed. She wouldn't be injured like this. Immortal King Yulan said with a complicated expression, "The Qinglian clan and the Blood Realm have a deep grudge to begin with. Originally, there was a Qinglian realm in the 3,000 realms, but it was later devoured by the Blood Realm, and countless Qinglian died in the Blood Sea. After that, the remaining members of the Qinglian realm fled to the Flower Realm and were taken in by the Flower Realm. Gradually, they found a place to live in the Flower Realm. However, the number of members of the Qinglian realm is very low. They are no longer the same as before." "There's actually such a thing," Su Zimo murmured softly. To Mulyan, this was the blood feud of having her clan exterminated. It was no wonder that Mulyan opposed Xueqi in the celestial tribute world. Immortal King Yulan continued, "In recent years, a large area of the Flower Realm's water source has been polluted. It contains an ancient poison, the Nether Calamity poison. Many members of the Flower Realm failed to detect it and died after absorbing that water source." Su Zimo frowned and asked, "Was it done by the Blood Realm?" Immortal King Yulan shook her head slightly and said, "This poison is very old. It should be from the Poison Realm. The Nether Calamity poison is extremely powerful and can ignore one's cultivation realm. Even if kings and imperial lords don't detect it, they will be infected by this poison and their lives will be in danger. It's said that in the previous epoch, the Poison Realm relied on this poison to become one of the super great realms. Other realms were not willing to provoke it. Many experts in the Flower Realm were infected by this poison." At the mention of this, Immortal King Yulan's eyes revealed a hint of worry again. Su Zimo was a little puzzled and asked, "How could such a poison be spread over such a large area in the Flower Realm without anyone noticing?" Immortal King Yulan pursed her lips and shook her head. She also had the same doubts. Perhaps there was a possibility. It was this poison that was spread by the people of the Flower Realm. Not to mention that the Flower Realm did not have any evidence. Even if it was confirmed that it was done by the people of the Poison Realm, it was not suitable for the Flower Realm to launch an inter-realm war against the Poison Realm with the current situation. Otherwise, they would be in danger of being exterminated. Since this poison is from the Poison Realm, why would Mulyan have a conflict with the Blood Realm? Su Zimo asked again. Immortal King Yulan said, "There are only 2 ways to resolve this crisis. The first is to give up the Flower Realm's current position and lead the remaining members to leave and open another realm." Su Zimo shook his head. This method was not realistic. After all, the Flower Realm was a higher realm with countless members rooted in its current position. How could it be so easy to move away? Furthermore, even if they left, the crisis would not be truly resolved. Even if they opened a new realm, could they guarantee that the Nether Calamity poison would not follow them? "What's the second method?" Su Zimo asked. Immortal King Yulan said, "The second method is to find an ancient spring water. It's said that this spring water can wash away all poisons in the world and restrain all poisons. If we can obtain this spring water, we can completely resolve the crisis of the Flower Realm." Hearing this, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he asked, "What's the name of this spring water? What's its origin?" "I'm not sure," Immortal King Yulan said. "I only know that this spring water is extremely ancient and is suffused with a dark light. It can only be found in the most ancient battlefield ruins." Su Zimo was deep in thought. When Wu Dao's main body was traveling in Hell, he had read about the 9 springs of Hell. The 9 springs of Hell originated from the Nether River. Each spring water contained different powers and had various strange effects. For example, Acheron of Hell could wash away memories. The bitter spring of Hell could severely injure the ghost race. And in the 9 springs, there was a spring water that could wash away all poisons and restrain all poisons. If he guessed correctly, the ancient spring water that Immortal King Yulan was talking about should be the Hell spring water. He knew where the Hell spring water was, but Wu Dao's main body was in seclusion. Besides, the eastern wilderness was facing a crisis. Song could come back at any time, and Wu Dao's main body couldn't leave. If he wanted to enter hell, he had to enter the Avicii hell and jump into that dry well. He didn't know what would happen and when he could return. Wu Dao's main body couldn't enter hell again and abandon the eastern wilderness and die you for the hell spring water. Moreover, judging from immortal King Yulan's words, she seemed to know where the hell spring water was. Have you heard of the land of day and night? Immortal King Yulan asked. Su Zimo shook his head. Immortal King Yulan said, it's a ruin formed by an ancient battlefield. Legend has it that a great battle broke out there during the calamity of heaven and earth. Countless people of the dark world and light world died there, gradually forming such a strange place. There's no pattern to the alternation of day and night. It might be daytime one moment and darkness the next. I heard that there's that ancient spring water in the land of day and night. Chapter 2960. In that case, the flower realm could only go to the day-night land if they wanted to resolve the crisis. Immortal King Yulan said, in the land of day and night, the two extreme powers of light and darkness coexist. After experiencing the vicissitudes of several epochs, it gradually formed a special kind of domain. The worlds and grotto heavens cultivated by kings and emperors are incompatible with that domain. Su Zimo nodded. This phenomenon was not surprising. The existence of the day-night land was a bit similar to Wu Dao's domain. Naturally, it would clash with the grotto heavens and worlds. Immortal King Yulan said, the remaining power of the day-night land is too terrifying. Even emperors will suffer a backlash if they try to force their way in. Only cultivators below the king realm will not be affected too much. Hearing this, Su Zimo gradually understood. True spirits did not form grotto heavens. Because of the uniqueness of the day-night land, the flower realm could only send true spirit realm experts to search for the hell spring. Mulyan was one of them. Immortal King Yulan continued. So we sent 10 teams, each consisting of 10 half-step kings. The rest were true spirit realm experts. Mulyan was one of them. Half-step kings are not affected? Su Zimo asked. Immortal King Yulan said, half-step kings are cultivators who failed to break through to the grotto heaven realm. They can only form an illusory grotto heaven. The power of the grotto heaven is relatively weak, so it won't cause too much of a reaction from the day-night land. And then? Su Zimo asked. Immortal King Yulan sighed with a sorrowful expression. She shook her head and said, apart from Mulyan, none of the others survived. They all died in the day-night land. Was it done by the blood realm? Kitsune asked. Immortal King Yulan shook her head slightly and said, Mulyan's team did run into people from the blood realm. As for the other 9 teams, no one knows what happened. They couldn't find that ancient spring and suffered heavy losses. The flower realm didn't dare to send cultivators into the day-night land. Immortal King Yulan frowned as she thought of the flower realm's crisis. Kitsune turned to look at Su Zimo. She was obviously tempted. She had already mastered Wu Dao and could easily suppress a genuine immortal at the Kongming stage. She could even fight a genuine immortal at the Dongshu stage. However, she spent most of her time in the sword world. When she sparred with her fellow disciples, her hands and feet were tied. She was unable to unleash the full power of Wu Dao and his sword Dao. She also wanted to find an opportunity to find a suitable opponent so that she could fight without holding back. A life-and-death battle could also give her a new understanding of Wu Dao and the way of the sword. Previously in the celestial tribute world, Kitsune's cultivation was too low, so she didn't have the chance to fight with the supreme true spirit inside. Later on, great changes happened to the celestial tribute realm. After it was sealed, 800 years passed, and it still didn't reopen. For Baiming Xue, this place of day and night was indeed a good opportunity for her to train. Of course, Su Zimo also planned to go to the land of day and night to take a look. After all, Immortal King Yulan and Mulyan had helped him before, so he should help them. Moreover, if he could help the flower world survive this calamity, it could be considered a good deed. In the future, if he or the sword world encountered any difficulties, he believed that the flower world would not sit idly by. Su Zimo pondered for a while and said, Where is the land of day and night? Baiming and I will go and take a look. Don't go! Mulyan had just woken up. When she heard these words, she quickly sat up and tried to stop him. Immortal King Yulan's expression changed slightly when she heard this. She shook her head and said, Fellow Taoist Su, You have just saved Mulyan. You have already done your best. You can't risk your life for us. I came here this time to ask fellow Taoist Su to try to save Mulyan. I have no other intentions. It's not that I want to risk my life. Su Zimo waved his hand and said casually, "It's just a small matter. The main thing is to give Baiming a chance to gain experience." When he was at the Kongming stage, he had killed more than 20 supreme true spirits in the evil demon battlefield and suppressed all the powerful enemies of the same level. Now that he was at the Paradise Void realm, who below the Grotto Heaven realm could stop him? Right now, it was not an exaggeration to say that Su Zimo was the number one below the Grotto Heaven realm. Due to the special restrictions of the Land of Day and Night where kings and eternal lords could not enter, he could almost do whatever he wanted inside. Fellow Taoist Su, please be careful. Immortal King Yulan said in a deep voice. Your combat strength can be said to be invincible at the True Self realm. However, there are half-step Grotto Heaven experts in the Land of Day and Night after all. It's still a little troublesome to deal with them. Mulyan added, Peak Master Su, you haven't been to the Land of Day and Night before, so you don't know how complicated and dangerous it is. In the Land of Day and Night, you don't just have to face experts from other realms. Because it's the ruins of a battlefield, it's filled with killing intent and treacherous at every step. The powers of light and darkness have fused with the killing intent and resentment in the battlefield, forming a special living being that wanders around and attacks any foreign living beings they see. This kind of living being was essentially an otherworldly soldier. However, by fusing the powers of light and darkness, it formed a special life form. For example, in the Shura battlefield that Su Zimo had once been to in the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm, there was a kind of blood fiend that could control the yakshas that had fallen many years ago. This kind of otherworldly soldier is extremely powerful. Each one of them is no weaker than a peak true immortal. In addition, they come in an endless stream and can't be killed. Once you encounter them, you can only escape far away. Mulyan continued, moreover, the environment of the Land of Day and Night is extremely harsh. It's possible to encounter a natural disaster, the day and night storm. When the powers of light and darkness interweave together, the storm formed is enough to destroy and strangle all life. Even the bodies of kings can't withstand it. Immortal King Yulan and Mulyan did not want Su Zimo to help them just because the Flower Realm was in danger. Instead, they were worried about Su Zimo's safety and tried their best to stop him. Su Zimo smiled and said, "The two of you don't have to worry. As long as you're careful, it should be fine." Even if they really encountered any danger that Su Zimo could not deal with his means, he could escape unscathed. Seeing that Su Zimo had made up his mind, Immortal King Yulan and Mulyan stopped persuading him. Mulyan took a deep breath, clenched her fist slightly, and said, "Peak Master Su, I'll go with you." She had just suffered heavy injuries in the Land of Day and Night and almost lost her life. Now that she said that she would return to the Land of Day and Night, who knew how much courage she had to muster? Su Zimo was about to speak when Mulyan said, "Peak Master Su, you don't have to persuade me. After all, you're risking your life for the Flower Realm. As a member of the Flower Realm, I won't stay out of it. Moreover, I know the approximate location of the spring. With me leading the way, we can avoid some dangers." Su Zimo hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. It was just taking care of one more person and being a little distracted. For him, it was not a big problem. Immortal King Yulan was silent for a while, then cupped her hands and said, "Fellow Taoist Su, I'll return to the Flower Realm now and gather some peak true spirits and half-step kings to accompany you to the Land of Day and Night." "Don't." Hearing this, Su Zimo hurriedly refused. With his ability, he could easily take care of Baiming Xue and Mulyan. But if he had to protect a large group of people, he would not be able to do anything at all. End of chapter. Chapter 2961. Since they decided to head to the Day-Night Land, Su Zimo didn't delay and made some arrangements before leaving the Sword World with Kitsune, Immortal King Yulan, and Mulyan. Although the Patriarch of the Academy wasn't dead, the Patriarch of the Academy didn't dare to show his face with Wu Dao's main body present. He couldn't deduce everything about Wu Dao's main body. With the Patriarch of the Academy's caution, he absolutely wouldn't dare to do anything to Qinglian's main body. As for the experts of the Heaven's Eye World, Stone World, and other superworlds, it was impossible for them to keep an eye on Su Zimo at all times and control all his movements. Even the Great Emperor hadn't reached the level of omniscience. The day-night land was relatively far from the sword world. Even with immortal King Yulan controlling the immortal boat and speeding through the spatial tunnel at full speed, it would still take a month. A month later, Su Zimo's group of 4 arrived near the day and night land. Looking into the distance, an ancient battlefield appeared before them with broken halberds and swords strewn all over the ground. Tattered flags that had been there for an unknown period of time were still flapping loudly. The battlefield stretched as far as the eye could see and was covered in corpses. One could vaguely imagine the scene of the battle back then. The battlefield was filled with strong killing intent and resentment, and it was also mixed with a blood-boiling battle intent. As soon as they approached the day-night land, Su Zimo could even hear the neighing of horses, the sound of iron hooves, the collision of weapons, the battle of the battlefield, and countless other clamorous sounds. These sounds seemed to have passed through the river of time and came from an ancient era, and it didn't dissipate for a long time. When Baiming Xue heard these voices, her vision blurred for a moment. She seemed to see a group of cavalry in black armor, holding long spears and large swords at their waists. They stirred up clouds of dust and were full of murderous intent as they charged towards her. Kitsune suddenly felt a strong sense of danger, and her scalp went numb. She didn't have time to think and pulled out the sword on her back, and a sword hum resounded through the world. All of a sudden, a broad and thick hand landed on her palm, and it contained an irresistible force that forced her sword back into the sheath. The sword hum had just sounded when it stopped abruptly. "Be careful. Guard your Dao heart." Su Zimo's voice rang in Kitsune's ears. Kitsune's heart trembled, and she instantly woke up. She took a closer look, but there was no black armored cavalry in front of her. It was just an illusion. The battle cries coming from the night and day realm could even affect her mind. Kitsune broke out in a cold sweat. Even before entering the land of day and night, she had almost fallen for it. If not for her master's protection, she might have lost her Dao heart and fallen into a dangerous situation. It was too comfortable to stay in the sword world all year round. This was also the reason why Su Zimo wanted to bring Kitsune out to gain experience. It's daytime now, and the terrain inside is still quite clear. Find that spring water as soon as possible. Immortal King Yulan said, if night falls, one's vision and divine sense will be obstructed. It will be much more difficult to find that spring water. Mu Lian also nodded and said, in the daytime, if there is any danger, we will be able to detect it immediately. If it's night and visibility is extremely low, we will have to be careful. Su Zimo, Kitsune, and Mu Lian immediately set off and entered the land of day and night. Soon, they disappeared from immortal King Yulan's sight. Although the land of day and night was a battlefield in name, in reality, the scope of this battlefield was not much different from the divine firmament immortal realm. There were towering mountains, rivers, lakes and seas, as well as many withered ancient trees and shrubs. In such a large battlefield, one could see shattered divine weapons and scattered bones with every step. It could be seen how tragic the battle back then was. Mu Lian walked in a direction according to her memory. As it was daytime, the 3 of them did not encounter any danger along the way. During this period, they also encountered living beings from other realms. Both sides covered their faces and were vigilant. They avoided each other and did not easily have any conflicts. As the battlefield of the ancient epic, the land of day and night naturally had many treasures buried inside. Since ancient times, many cultivators had braved the danger to enter the land of day and night to search for opportunities. Just half a day later, the situation changed. Without any warning, night fell and quickly enveloped the entire land of day and night. An extremely oppressive feeling surged into their hearts as well. Even Su Zimo frowned, let alone Kitsune and Mu Lian. The surroundings were dark and filled with a cold and dark power. The moment his spirit consciousness was released, it would be dissipated by the power and turned into nothingness. Given his vision as a grade 12 creation, Qinglian, the furthest he could see was only 1,000 feet. If that was the case for him, it was even worse for Kitsune and Mu Lian. The 2 of them could only see 100 feet away at most. Right then, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he channeled his essence spirit and channeled a secret skill. His left eye was pitch black while his right eye was pure white. The 2 visual techniques, illumination and nether fluorescence, were released at the same time. The illumination stone in his right eye did not react in the darkness. However, the nether fluorescent stone began to spin slowly, absorbing the cold and dark power in the darkness. The nether fluorescent stone was like a bottomless black hole that devoured the surrounding darkness continuously without any reaction. Back when he fought with the Academy Patriarch, Su Zimo had already discovered this. The two divine stones, Illumination and Nether Fluorescence, devoured the Academy Patriarch's Emperor level 6 Ding and 6 Jia Shen without causing any ripples. Su Zimo did not interrupt the process. Although he could not activate the power of the Nether Fluorescent Stone given his cultivation realm, it should not be a bad thing for the Nether Fluorescent Stone to continue absorbing the surrounding power of darkness. Because the Nether Fluorescent Stone devoured the darkness, Su Zimo was shrouded in endless darkness. Su Zimo followed beside Kitsune and Mu Lian, but others could not see him at all. That was because he had already fused with the surrounding darkness. Oh no, Peak Master Su is gone. As they walked, Mu Lian felt that something was amiss. Looking around, she realized that there was no trace of Su Zimo and could not help but exclaim in shock. This time, she was really shocked. Su Zimo had disappeared silently. She did not notice at all. Master. Kitsune frowned slightly. For some reason, she felt that her master was nearby, but she could not see anything. There was only darkness. She tried to call out, but there was no response. It was as if her master had suddenly disappeared into thin air. What's going on? A trace of panic flashed across Mu Lian's eyes. She had mustered up her courage to enter the land of day and night again, mainly because she was accompanied by Su Zimo. Now, Su Zimo had mysteriously disappeared, and she did not know whether he was dead or alive. This made her instantly lose her confidence, and the fear of the land of day and night surged into her heart again. Kitsune could not explain it clearly. Logically speaking, even if her master encountered any danger at the very least, he would make a sound and not disappear silently. Master should not be in danger. Kitsune quickly calmed down and slowly pulled out the long sword on her back. She muttered, "Let's continue forward. Be careful." Su Zimo deliberately did not appear because he wanted to see Kitsune's performance. He hid in the darkness and followed not far from the two of them, observing the surrounding movements. Because of the existence of the Nether Fluorescent Stone, the surrounding darkness could no longer block his left eye's vision. Chapter 2962. Su Zimo followed beside Kitsune and Mu Lian and continued to walk forward. Not long after, Su Zimo's gaze turned. Through the fluorescent stones with his left eye, he saw that in the distant darkness, there was a group of hundreds of black-armored knights gathering and heading in the direction of the three of them. This time, it was not an illusion. Some of the corpses that had fallen here back then were awakened by the dark power here. These black-armored knights were broken. Some had no heads, some had broken arms, and some only had half of their bodies. They held rusty spears and broken swords in their hands. The warhorse under him was also riddled with holes. Only a broken skeleton was left, and it was covered in broken armor. Looking at the attire of these black-armored knights, they should be the cultivators of the dark world back then. These black-armored knights continued to approach in the direction of the three of them. Due to the obstruction of vision and divine sense, Kitsune and Mu Lian did not notice. Even the sound of the black-armored knights marching was dissipated by the surrounding dark power. As the black-armored knights continued to approach, just when the distance between the two sides was only 100 feet, the black-armored knights seemed to have discovered something. They stared at Su Zimo's position and stopped. The black-armored knights gradually put down the weapons in their hands and opened their mouths slightly, as if they were saying something. Su Zimo frowned slightly and moved closer in the direction of the black-armored knights. Darkness in the heart, light in the heart. The group of black-armored knights chanted repeatedly with pious looks on their faces. These 8 words had an indescribable power. When they were chanted by the black-armored knights who had fallen many years ago, it was full of endless tragedy and desolation. Darkness in the heart, light in the heart. Su Zimo murmured softly. What happened between the dark world and the light world back then? Su Zimo looked at these black-armored knights with a solemn expression. He cupped his hands slightly before turning to leave, following Kitsune and Mu Lian. Along the way, the three of them encountered many wandering black-armored knights. However, these black-armored knights noticed Su Zimo hiding in the darkness and did not go forward to attack. Instead, they avoided him on their own. Although there was no trouble from the black-armored knights, Kitsune and Mu Lian were still attacked by creatures from other realms and fought several times. After all, Mu Lian was a supreme true spirit. Unless it was also a supreme true spirit or a half-step king, it was difficult to pose any threat to her. Although Kitsune was only at the great success stage of Wu Dao, she had already revealed the combat strength of a supreme true spirit. After several battles, Bai Mingshue's temperament had obviously changed, even though she had suffered some serious injuries. The killing intent of the sword Dao and the valiance of the martial Dao were gradually revealed. Especially in this complicated and harsh environment was a huge test for Kitsune's. She was facing the unknown. She could be in danger. Her life was on the line. She also had to face powerful enemies from different realms. From the beginning to the end, Su Zimo did not appear. Even when he saw Kitsune in danger, he did not rashly make a move. Instead, he let Kitsune rely on her own strength to resolve the crisis. He would only make a move if they encountered a powerful enemy that Kitsune and Mulyen could not deal with. Su Zimo observed carefully for a moment. Along the way, the creatures that Kitsune and Mulyen fought mostly came from the three realms: the Blood Realm, the Tomb Realm, and the Poison Realm. Among them, there were also scattered people from the Witch Realm. Moreover, as time passed, more and more people from the Blood Realm, Poison Realm, and Tomb Realm gathered in the darkness, showing signs of surrounding the two of them. It was somewhat unusual for so many people from the Blood Realm, Poison Realm, and Tomb Realm to appear in the daytime. From the looks of it, it's probably not a coincidence that Mulyen encountered people from the Blood Realm here. Su Zimo looked at the crowd that was constantly gathering in the distance and was deep in thought. If the Flower Realm's nether calamity poison came from the Poison Realm, what role did the Blood Realm and Tomb Realm play in this matter? Did this have anything to do with the Witch Realm? The 9 teams that the Flower Realm sent into the daytime were all annihilated. It seemed like the Poison Realm, Tomb Realm, and Blood Realm had something to do with it. Just as Su Zimo was pondering, Kitsune and Mulyen were surrounded by people from the Tomb Realm once more. More than a dozen Tomb Realm cultivators controlled the hideous battle corpses that reeked of the stench of rotting corpses to attack Bai Mingxue and Mulyen. In the darkness, Tomb Realm cultivators had the advantage. The cultivation and combat methods of the Tomb Realm cultivators were unusual. Although they cultivated themselves as well, they placed more importance on cultivating their battle corpses and controlling them to fight for them. Compared to the battle corpses that were immensely strong and filled with corpse poison, the Tomb Realm cultivators were relatively weak. That was their greatest weakness. However, in the daytime, that weakness was covered perfectly under the shroud of darkness. The true bodies of the Tomb Realm cultivators hid in the darkness and controlled their battle corpses to attack Kitsune and Mulyen continuously. Kitsune and Mulyen wanted to retaliate, but there was no way for them to do so. After being tempered by the Tomb Realm cultivators for many years, the battle corpses were already indestructible and were not inferior to divine weapons. Furthermore, the battle corpses were senseless and fearless. Even if they were covered in wounds from Kitsune's sword, they were oblivious and did not care at all. Their ferocity did not decrease at all. Although Kitsune and Mulyen could not resolve the situation against more than 10 battle corpses, they could still defend and retreat as they fought. Roar! Right then, another battle corpse with red fur joined the battlefield and roared towards Kitsune and Mulyen. Its bulging green eyes were ghastly green and its bloody mouth was filled with sharp fangs that were stained with blood. The aura released by this battle corpse was clearly more berserk than the other battle corpses around it. Not good! Mulyen exclaimed. A half-step king of the Tomb Realm has attacked. The two of them were exhausted from the consecutive battles and were injured by now. There was no way they could defend against a battle corpse refined by a half-step king. The red-furred battle corpse roared and joined the battle, lunging towards Kitsune and Mulyen. It was 1 against 2 with a torrential aura. Kitsune's sword was a pure young spirit treasure of the 9 tribulations. However, when it landed on the red-furred battle corpse, it was blocked by the thick red fur of the battle corpse and could not hurt its flesh at all. After a series of counterattacks, sword lights flashed and Kitsune was pushed back by the red-furred battle corpse with a wound on her body. The flesh around the wound gradually changed color and emitted a rotten stench. It was clear that it contained poison. Even Kitsune's true Wu Dao body could not defend against it. In the darkness, an old man from the Tomb Realm was hidden with an excited expression. As the old man manipulated the red-haired battle corpse to attack Bai Mingxue and Huang Xiaolong, he grinned hideously. You 2 little girls want to fight me? I'll let you have a taste of my treasure's power. A figure gradually appeared in the darkness behind the old man. Chapter 2963. The battle corpses controlled by half-step kings were too damaging to Bai Mingxue and Mulyen. It was already beyond their limits. Su Zimo silently arrived behind the Tomb Realm Elder. He had become one with the darkness around him. As long as the darkness didn't dissipate, no one would be able to detect his presence. Su Zimo didn't say anything to the Tomb Realm Elder. He directly attacked and pierced the Elder's head with a finger, piercing his sea of consciousness and destroying his Yuan spirit. The Tomb Realm Elder died, and the red-haired battle corpse he refined was also heavily injured. Its originally indestructible body rapidly festered, its flesh peeling off and its bones falling apart. Without the threat of the red-haired battle corpse, Kitsune and Mulyen had a chance to catch their breath. They worked together to break through the blockade of a dozen battle corpses and continued to flee. More and more true spirits began to gather around them, forming an encirclement. With the help of the battle corpses, the Tomb Realm cultivators could expand their perception and vision by several times. They could keep a close eye on Kitsune and Mulyen. The two charged left and right, but they still couldn't break out of the encirclement. During this period of time, some half-step kings from the Blood World, Poison World, and Tomb World had died not long after they had appeared. Before long, the number of half-step kings who died at Su Zimo's hands had reached 20. He had tried to use soul-searching on a few half-step kings to find out some secrets, but they all failed. The memories of these half-step kings seemed to be sealed by some kind of familiar power. Once an external force probed, the seal would be triggered and the Yuan spirit would be destroyed. Witchcraft. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Under the constant attacks of the true spirits from the Blood, Poison, and Tomb realms, the space around Kitsune and Mulyen was constantly compressed and gradually trapped. More and more true spirits gathered. Su Zimo caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd of true spirits. It was Xueqi from the Blood Realm. Beauty Mulyen, how have you been? Xueqi came to a spot about 30 meters away from Kitsune and Mulyen and entered their line of sight. He smiled. Shameless. Mulyen cursed. Oh. Xueqi wasn't annoyed. He observed Mulyen and was a little surprised. Your wounds are healed? Interesting. Of course, what surprised me even more was that you actually dared to come to the day-night domain. Could it be that you missed me and took the initiative to throw yourself into my arms? Haha. Without waiting for Mulyen to speak, Xueqi couldn't help but laugh. He couldn't hide the excitement and pride on his face. Many of the surrounding Bloodvine race also roared with laughter. The Bloodvine race was extremely bloodthirsty. They viewed other plants as their food and crazily plundered them. The original Qinglian realm was destroyed by the Bloodvine race. I heard that you can shoot out sword energy from your mouth. Now that I see it, your mouth is truly despicable, Kitsune, who was standing beside him, said coldly. You are. Xueqi glanced at Kitsune and frowned. This person looked a little familiar, but he couldn't remember who he was. That day in the fiendish demon battlefield, Kitsune had been at the Sky Tribute Square and didn't accompany Su Zimo into the fiendish demon battlefield. Although Xueqi had seen Kitsune in the crowd of Sword World, he didn't have a deep impression of her. Senior brother. A pale-faced true spirit of Blood Realm clutched his injured chest and glared at Baiming Xue. This woman is from Sword Realm. Sword World. Xueqi was shocked. How did Sword World get involved? Xueqi seemed to have thought of something. His expression changed slightly and he quickly asked, how many people from Sword World came? I'm not sure. The Blood World true spirit shook his head and muttered, I don't think I saw anyone other than this woman. Only one person from Sword World came? Xueqi frowned. At this moment, Kitsune suddenly said, don't be afraid. Only Master and I came from Sword World this time. Who saw her master? I didn't notice. He's probably dead. Or maybe he saw that the situation was bad and ran away. The surrounding true spirits discussed among themselves for a while before they curled their lips in disdain. Who is your master? Someone asked casually. Kitsune said Su Zhu. The surroundings instantly became so silent that one could hear a pin drop. At this moment, it was as if all the true spirits present were intimidated by this name and kept quiet out of fear. In recent years, this name was enough to make any true spirit in the 3,000 worlds feel their scalp tingle. The Peak Master of Sword World's 9th Sword Peak, Su Zhu. At the Kongming stage, he comprehended the 6 paths of reincarnation and 7 other supreme divine powers. With his own strength, he killed Xia Yin and more than 20 other supreme true spirits. He was known as the strongest true spirit in history. When Xueqi heard this name, he was so frightened that his entire body trembled. More than 800 years ago, in the evil demon battlefield, He was the only one who survived the siege of Suzhu's supreme true spirits. Just based on this, in recent years, his fame and reputation had been increasing day by day. He was the only supreme true spirit that escaped from Suzhu's sword. How great of an honor was this? How great of an ability was this? This was enough for Xueqi to brag about for the rest of his life. Originally, the thousands of true spirit realm experts around were still relaxed and chatting casually. But after the name Suzhu was mentioned, the entire place went silent. Even the sound of breathing in the crowd became weak. Mu Lian felt the change in the atmosphere and was both happy and worried. She was happy because Peak Master Suzhu's name alone was enough to intimidate thousands of true spirit realm experts. In the 3,000 worlds, Suzhu was probably the only one who could do this. She was worried because there were many peak true spirit realm experts present. With just the name Suzhu, she wouldn't be able to suppress them for long. Xueqi's expression was uncertain. He stared at Kitsune for a while before narrowing his eyes and asking, "You're Suzhu's disciple? Is your master really here?" Kitsune didn't answer and only smiled faintly. The calmer Kitsune was, the more worried the surrounding cultivators were. Xueqi was a supreme true spirit after all. After thinking for a while, he calmed down and sneered, "Everyone, don't worry. It's good that Suzhu is here. We have more than 30 half-step kings. Once we release the heavenly abode phantoms, even Suzhu will have to bow down." "That's right." In the crowd, a true spirit realm expert nodded and said, "Half-step kings have already come into contact with the power of heavenly abode realm. No matter how strong a supreme true spirit is, it hasn't reached the threshold of heavenly abode realm. If Suzhu shows up, we can use the environment of day and night to kill her here and avenge our clansmen." In the fiend battlefield, the supreme true spirits of the witch realm, poison realm, and tomb realm had all died at the hands of Su Zimo. Where's senior martial brother Lu? Elder Hong. Martial Aunt Xueqi. Where are you? At this moment, everyone found that the half-step kings of their respective realms weren't in the crowd. They called out a few times, but there was no response. At this moment, the surrounding night gradually faded away. The day and night realm changed again. Day arrived. Everyone regained their vision, consciousness, and perception of their surroundings. At the same time, they found that there was an extra person beside Kitsune and Mulien. End of chapter. Chapter 2964. This person wore a green robe and had black hair. He stood with his hands behind his back and his left eye was as black as ink, like a bottomless black hole. He coldly stared at the surrounding cultivators. When Xueqi saw this person, his expression changed greatly. "Suzhu." He blurted out these two words. As soon as he finished speaking, the surroundings were in an uproar. The group of true spirit realm experts who wanted to step forward subconsciously took a few steps back. They were in a mess and looked at the green-robed cultivator not far away with fear. Just now they had only heard two names, but now they saw a living person in front of them. "You wanted to kill me just now?" Su Zimo's eyes were like lightning as he looked around. Many true spirit realm experts were intimidated by his aura, and no one dared to look at him directly. Their courage was weak, and they all looked away. When Kitsune and Mulien saw Su Zimo appear, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. Su Zimo's eyes turned and landed on Xueqi. In an instant, Xueqi felt his hair stand on end and his scalp tingle. His blood and qi circulation slowed down, and a sense of extreme danger rose in his heart. This was not the fiend battlefield. In the fiend battlefield, he could escape with the help of the heaven token if the situation was bad. However, this was the land of day and night. It would take some effort to escape from the #1 true spirit realm expert in history. Of course, they had more than 30 half-step kings and thousands of peak true spirit realm experts today. They might be able to fight this Suzhu. However, why did these half-step kings suddenly disappear? Logically speaking, they should be nearby. Looking for those half-step kings? Su Zimo said indifferently, "I killed all of them on the way here." Hiss. The true spirit realm experts were shocked. Su Zimo said it casually, but those were more than 30 half-step kings, and they were their biggest reliance on this trip. Impossible. Xueqi's eyes flickered, and he said in a low voice, "Everyone, don't listen to his nonsense. He's only at the Kongming." Xuewen was about to say that Su Zimo was only at the Kongming stage when he suddenly realized that Su Zimo's cultivation had already reached the Dongshu stage. It was only 800 years, and there was another breakthrough? Cultivating to the true self realm, even for a cultivator with exceptional talent, would require a long period of accumulation and many opportunities to advance to the next realm. For a true spirit with a lifespan of 500,000 years, a few hundred years, or even a few thousand years, would pass by in the blink of an eye. How could someone break through from the Kongming stage to the Dongshu stage in just a few hundred years? Xuewen swallowed his saliva, paused for a moment, and then continued. He is only at the Dongshu realm, but it is impossible for him to kill more than 30 half-step kings silently. Normally speaking, if Su Zimo wanted to deal with a half-step king, he would inevitably have to fight, which would indeed cause quite a commotion. However, due to the uniqueness of the day and night land, when night fell, Su Zimo blended into the darkness. Those half-step kings didn't even notice him before being killed by him. Even after they died, their eyes were wide open, and their faces were full of bewilderment. Hearing Xuewen's words, many of the true spirit realm experts who had originally wanted to retreat wavered. Everyone, listen to my command. Xuewen took a deep breath, raised his arm and shouted, pointing at Su Zimo from afar, kill him. Everyone, today is the day you become famous. After all, Xuewen was a supreme true spirit. Many of the true spirit realm experts in the blood world obeyed his orders. Hearing Xuewen's command, the true spirits of the blood world didn't doubt him. They transformed into their true forms of the bloodvine race, took root in the day and night land, and grew thick scarlet vines that tore through the air. Because of the bloodvine race's actions, some of the true spirits of the poison world and the tomb realm also attacked. Roar! Many battle corpses roared, their eyes blood-red. Under the control of the tomb realm true spirits, they charged towards Su Zimo. The poison world true spirit realm experts released many poisons, and the sky was filled with poison spirit treasures. Like dense raindrops, they rained down in Su Zimo's direction. Among these true spirits, they had only heard of Su Zhu's name and the many legends about Su Zhu, but not many had seen the battle on the evil demon battlefield with their own eyes. Among the crowd, none of the true spirits who had witnessed the battle dared to attack Su Zimo, including Xuewen. He commanded the surrounding true spirits to surround Su Zimo, but he didn't attack. He didn't even release his supreme abilities. Instead, he used the blood escape art, turned into a streak of crimson light, and fled madly into the distance. Just now, he had sold out the true spirits of the three worlds to delay Su Zimo and buy himself time to escape. Su Zimo noticed Xuewen's movement and sneered. Facing the attacks of the surrounding true spirit realm experts, he released a series of hand seals, pointed forward, and shouted, 6 paths of reincarnation. Boom! A huge vortex abyss appeared on the battlefield. 6 mysterious runes flickered on it, exuding boundless power. In that instant, the heavens and earth spun and space became chaotic. Countless crimson bloodvines flew through the air, but before they could touch Su Zimo's clothes, they were pulled into the vortex by the 6 paths of reincarnation and turned into clouds of blood mist. The battle corpses tempered by the true spirits of the tomb realm didn't have their own consciousness, but after seeing the 6 paths of reincarnation, a deep sense of fear appeared in their eyes. They wanted to break free, but they couldn't control their bodies at all. They were pulled into the vortex abyss and into the cycle of reincarnation. Countless poisonous creatures and poisonous spirit treasures were also swallowed by the 6 paths of reincarnation. All living beings in the world and all things in the world couldn't escape the cycle of reincarnation. Moreover, after reaching the Paradise Void stage, Su Zimo's 6 paths of reincarnation was clearly more terrifying. The huge vortex continued to expand, blotting out the sky. If there was enough power to support it, it was as if it could swallow the entire world. Some true spirit realm experts saw that the situation was not good and immediately released all their trump cards and turned to flee. Some true spirit realm experts reacted a bit slower and were already enveloped by the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation. They couldn't break free and could only watch as they entered the cycle of reincarnation and died. Bloodmark, who was fleeing, turned back and saw this scene. He was scared out of his wits. Back then, in the evil demon battlefield, Sky High Race's Xiaoyin had died in Su Zimo's 6 paths of reincarnation. Although this supreme ability's power was terrifying, it was only used on Xiaoyin alone, so Bloodmark didn't feel it strongly enough. But now, the 6 paths of reincarnation had descended, and the attacks of thousands of true spirit realm experts were instantly disintegrated. Bloodmark felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, He was smart enough to choose to run away at the first moment and didn't get entangled. Right at this moment, Xuewen felt as if he'd been targeted by someone, and it was like there was a thorn in his back that caused him to feel extremely uncomfortable. Who can catch up to me? Blood Mark frowned. He released the blood escape art and his speed increased sharply. Even a half-step king wouldn't be able to catch up to him. As long as he escaped from the world of day and night, he would be able to escape in the vast starry sky. Chapter 2965. Xuewen glanced back and saw a golden light rushing in his direction at an astonishing speed. The distance between the two of them was rapidly closing. Xuewen's pupils constricted and his expression changed. It was too fast. It was so fast that he could not identify the person's appearance with his gaze. Perhaps, he did not even need to identify it. In the day and night ground, there was only one person who could unleash such speed. Suju. While the blood escape grand art was powerful, Su Zimo had too many secret techniques in terms of speed. Heaven's feet, earth-traversing golden light, ethereal wings, wind and thunder wings, and rock wings. When all of those secret skills were released and stacked together, even ordinary kings would not be able to match his speed, let alone Xuewen's blood escape. On the battlefield behind him, a single 6 paths of reincarnation was enough to sweep through everything. The cultivators of the blood, tomb and poison worlds who were lucky enough to survive did not dare to linger and fled in all directions, unable to pose any threat to Kitsune and Mulyen. That was the reason why Su Zimo could chase after Xuewen without any reservations. Xuewen was panicking. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before Suju caught up to him. Furthermore, his blood escape consumed his own essence blood. The longer he used it, the more his essence blood would be consumed. There were only 2 paths left in front of him. He could either stop now and fight Suju to the death while he still had some essence blood left in his body. That way, he might be able to fight for a chance at survival. Or he could wait until he used up most of his essence blood and his combat strength decreased before Suju caught up. At that time, he might not even have the strength to release his supreme skills and might not even be able to defend against a single move from Suju. At that thought, Xuewen suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned around. Looking at the golden light that was tearing through the air, he grit his teeth and asked, Suju, I admit defeat today. Can you let me live? When the golden light arrived before Xuewen, it gradually dissipated and Su Zimo appeared. Faced with Xuewen's naive question, Su Zimo merely smiled coldly. Be it in the evil demon battlefield or the day and night ground, Xuewen's initial thought was to kill Su Zimo. However, when he realized that the situation was not right, he changed his mind. Back in the evil demon battlefield, Xuewen should have died. Suju. Since he had consumed a lot of blood essence, Xuewen's face was pale. His eyes were dark and gloomy as he said with hatred, Anyway, I'm the true spirit of the blood world. After you kill me, you have to bear the anger of the blood world. I've already killed the kings of your blood world. Why would I care about a supreme true spirit like you? In the face of Xuewen's threat, Su Zimo remained unmoved. He directly charged towards Xuewen. Xuewen was taken aback. He didn't understand what Su Zimo meant by just now. Suju had indeed killed many true spirits in the fiend battlefield, but when had she ever killed a king of the blood world? After the celestial tribute world was closed, the blood world, Heaven's Eye world, and other worlds sent out dozens of kings to hunt down Su Zimo, but they were all killed by Wu Dao's true body. Later on, the experts of the various worlds speculated that it was very likely that an imperial emperor expert from the sword world had made a move. Xuewen would never have thought that it was Su Zimo's doing. Seeing Su Zimo charge over, Xuewen had no time to think. He frantically activated his essence spirit and formed hand seals with both hands, releasing a supreme divine ability. Space-time imprisonment. Against Su Zimo's attack, only a supreme divine ability could affect it. An invisible force descended, imprisoning the space-time around Su Zimo. Time freeze, space lock. Back in the fiend battlefield, Su Zimo had used his eye technique to condense a supreme divine ability. A single yin-yang limitless had severely injured Xuewen and almost killed him. However, this time, Su Zimo didn't release any means. He seemed to have reacted a little slower and allowed the space-time imprisonment to descend on him. A chance! Xuewen's eyes lit up. After all, he was also a supreme true spirit. His combat strength wasn't weak and his combat talent was outstanding. As long as the space-time imprisonment could restrict Su Zhu, even if it was only for a breath's time, he could take advantage of the opportunity and severely injure her. The space-time imprisonment itself did not have much lethality. Its main purpose was to restrict a cultivator's body. Not only did it restrict space-time, it also restricted a cultivator's bloodline and essence spirit. It was equivalent to sealing all methods of the other party. In other words, the other party was at their weakest in this state. Xueqi summoned a blood-colored saber and charged forward, prepared to slash Su Zimo's head. However, right then, he caught sight of a mocking look in Su Zimo's eyes. Xueqi was shocked. Under normal circumstances, such emotions could not be revealed under the space-time imprisonment. Not good. Just as Xueqi arrived before Su Zimo, he suddenly thought of a terrifying guess. Su Zhu was not affected by the space-time imprisonment at all. The moment that thought crossed his mind, Su Zimo suddenly reached out and gripped Xueqi's throat in a flash, shuddering slightly. Xueqi's blood qi dissipated instantly, and his body went limp as his saber flew out of his hands. How was that possible? Xueqi's eyes widened in disbelief. 800 years ago, in the fiendish demon battlefield, Su Zhu had to release a supreme divine ability to deal with his space-time imprisonment. But now, his space-time imprisonment could not affect Su Zimo at all. After entering the Paradise Void Realm, Su Zimo had the Grade 12 Creation Qinglian as his foundation and 9 supreme divine powers to temper his bloodline. His physique was already at the Grotto Heaven realm. Although the space-time imprisonment was a supreme divine power, it could not affect the physique and bloodline of a Grotto Heaven realm cultivator. It was no exaggeration to say that the current Su Zimo could take on the supreme divine powers of a true spirit with just his physique and bloodline alone. Su Zimo did not waste any time with Xueqi. Sword qi burst forth from his palm and tore through Xueqi's consciousness, shredding the latter's essence spirit. He retrieved the complete Dao fruit and kept it in his pouch before turning to leave. By the time they retraced their steps, there was no one around. The surviving true spirits of the blood, poison and tomb realms had long escaped. The three of them cleaned up the battlefield and continued on their way. Since it was daytime, the three of them sped up and arrived at their destination before long. Kitsune and Mulyen were searching for the hell spring nearby while Su Zimo sat cross-legged. His right eye was white as jade and emitted a blazing glow. When night fell, the nether fluorescent stone in his left eye absorbed the surrounding power of darkness. When the day came, the glow disappeared, and the illumination stone in his right eye appeared, absorbing the power of light around him. Given Su Zimo's current cultivation realm, he could not fully utilize the power of the two divine stones. However, he could make use of this process to sense the two powers of darkness and light. The land of day and night was way too special. For others, this was an ancient battlefield and a ruin of a secret realm. However, for Su Zimo, this was perhaps the best place for him to cultivate and comprehend yin and yang. Darkness and light. Yin and yang. Nether fluorescent stone and illumination stone. Limitless yin and yang. Su Zimo sensed the changes of day and night in this place and compared it to the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra, comprehending it gradually. End of chapter. Chapter 2966. Kitsune and Mulyen dispersed and searched for traces of the hell spring water nearby. Before long, the day and night land changed once more. Night descended. Kitsune and Mulyen frowned slightly. Under the shroud of night, their vision and spirit consciousness were obstructed and it would be even more difficult for them to search for the hell spring water. At this moment, the night gradually receded and the day arrived. Both of them were stunned. Although there was no pattern to the alternation of day and night here, it shouldn't be this frequent. Before the two of them could react, night struck once more. Day and night alternated above the entire battlefield ruins in an unpredictable manner. As though they were stimulated, the weather changed. After an unknown period of time, the day and night land finally calmed down. The two of them did not know what happened and looked in the direction of Su Zimo instinctively. Instantly, the two of them were stunned and dumbfounded. Su Zimo sat in a lotus position with his back facing them. The left side of his body was pitch black, as though it was hidden in the darkness. However, the right side of his body shone with a blazing light. Even Su Zimo's long hair was distinct. The left side was pitch black like ink while the right side was white. It was as though he was the ruler of the day and night land. The two different and opposing powers of light and darkness were presented perfectly on his body. His left side was shrouded in night while his right side was as bright as day. With him as the boundary, the day and night land was divided into two worlds. However, the two powers of light and darkness were incompatible after all. Su Zimo's body trembled slightly, as though he was enduring immense pain. In reality that was the case. If not for the support of the grade 12 creation Qinglian's bloodline, his body would not have been able to withstand such intense conflict. As time passed by, the conflict would intensify and become more intense. The moment it exceeded the limits of Qinglian's true body, he would explode and die. However, he did not stop cultivating and continued comprehending. If he stopped now, everything earlier would be for naught. This was the best opportunity for him to comprehend light and darkness and control yin and yang. Back when he ascended, he experienced a similar situation when the essence spirits of the dragon phoenix and Qinglian fused. At that time, he'd relied on the forbidden secret scripture, the Nirvana Sutra, to resolve the crisis in the end. Yet now, not only did he possess the Nirvana scripture, he even possessed the extraordinary book, the Yin-Yang Talisman scripture. Coupled with the comprehensions he'd obtained from cultivating the Yin-Yang Dao technique in these past few years, it was very likely that he would advance a step further in the Yin-Yang Dao technique. After an unknown period of time, the light and darkness powers on Su Zimo's body gradually changed. Light dimmed, and the boundary between day and night gradually blurred. The two types of energy continued to revolve and even began to merge. Under the gaze of Kitsune and Mulyen, a shadow gradually appeared behind Su Zimo. There were two massive black and white fishes with their heads and tails connected. They were constantly spinning and chasing each other. You have me in you and I have you in me. The power Upanishads of heaven and earth were filled with endless mysteries. With the appearance of this yin-yang phantom, Su Zimo's aura also rapidly rose. Kitsune and Mulyen felt the power emitted by the phantom and couldn't help but widen their eyes in disbelief. This is Grotto Heaven. Both of them were greatly shocked. The power emitted by this phantom had completely surpassed the true self realm. It was the power of a Grotto Heaven. Could it be? Mulyen guessed a possibility and said with a shocked expression. Could it be that Peak Master Su is going to condense a Grotto Heaven here and become a king? This was too terrifying. 800 years ago, Su Zhu was only at the Kongming stage. Now, he was going to step into a Grotto Heaven. Kitsune frowned slightly and said, "That's not right. Master has just stepped into the Dongshu stage and hasn't cultivated to the peak of the Dongshu stage. How can he directly step into a Grotto Heaven?" This was equivalent to trying to break through to the next stage. Since ancient times, such a situation had never happened before. In fact, a true spirit realm expert didn't have to cultivate to the peak of the Dongshu stage to try to break through and step into a Grotto Heaven. However, to condense a Grotto Heaven, one needed to shatter a Dao fruit. With the help of the explosion of power at the moment of the Dao fruit's shattering, one could shatter the void and condense a Grotto Heaven to reach the next stage. This process was very dangerous and there was even a high probability of failure. If one hadn't cultivated to the peak of the Dongshu stage, the power released from the shattering of the Dao fruit might not reach the level of shattering the void and condensing a Grotto Heaven. Therefore, all true spirit realm experts would cultivate to the peak of the Dongshu stage and continue to accumulate power before attempting to break through. Moreover, the more power they accumulated during this process, the higher the chance of success. Now, although Su Zimo had just stepped into the Dongshu stage, his Dao fruit contained the profound meaning of many forbidden secret manuals and 9 supreme superpowers. The accumulation of such a huge and terrifying power could be said to be unprecedented and unprecedented. Even if the Dao fruit that had just stepped into the Dongshu stage was shattered, it was enough to break through the void and support a Grotto Heaven. In other words, as long as Su Zimo wanted to, he could use this opportunity to directly step into the Grotto Heaven stage and become a king. No. At this moment, Mulyen seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, "This is the land of day and night. If Peak Master Su steps into the Grotto Heaven, he will definitely be suppressed by the power of the land of day and night." Perhaps hearing Mulyen's reminder, the Grotto Heaven shadow behind Su Zimo did not further transform and its aura gradually stabilized. At the last moment, Su Zimo did not choose to break through and step into the Grotto Heaven. Of course, it was not because of the reason that Mulyen mentioned. He had the 2 god stones, Zhuzhao and Yueying. Even if he stepped into the Grotto Heaven stage, the power of light and darkness here would not hurt him. There was only one reason why he did not choose to step into the Grotto Heaven. The time was not ripe. Now he could step into the Grotto Heaven and become a king, but in terms of combat strength, it was far from his expectations. His Dao fruit had not been cultivated to the peak state. If he broke through now, all the Dao skills and profound meanings he cultivated would be swallowed by the yin-yang grotto heaven. Cultivating the Dao fruit was like building a foundation. The more complete and flawless the Dao fruit was, the more Dao skills it contained, the deeper the comprehension, and the stronger the grotto heaven formed in the future. Su Zimo had another idea. This idea was too bold and could even be said to be shocking. However, he wanted to give it a try. Only by cultivating his Dao fruit to the peak state and being flawless would he have a chance to realize it. Once he succeeded, he would be reborn once more and complete his transformation. Of course, although he did not step into the grotto heaven this time, Su Zimo did not gain nothing. With the help of the land of day and night, he comprehended a grotto heaven shadow ahead of time. This grotto heaven shadow was fused with the power of light and darkness of the land of day and night, the power of yin and yang of Zhuzhao and Yueying, as well as the yin-yang talisman sutra. Its power could even fight against a small grotto heaven. Chapter 2967. The grotto heaven phantom behind him gradually dissipated. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and opened his eyes. Although he was still at the Dongshu realm, he had already comprehended the power of the grotto heaven. Back when Wu Dao's original body was at the true martial realm, he had also comprehended a similar method, which was the Avicii gate later on. Peak Master Su? Mulian was a little worried and called out tentatively. Su Zimo stood up, turned to look at the two of them, and nodded slightly. Seeing that Su Zimo's expression was normal, Mulian was relieved and said, "That was close. Peak Master Su, if you broke through to the grotto heaven realm, you might cause trouble." Su Zimo smiled and did not explain. He had the illumination and nether glow divine stones. Even if he really stepped into the grotto heaven realm, he would not cause too much of a reaction from the day-night land. The light and darkness powers of the day-night land were not harmful to him at all. With Su Zimo's help, the three of them found some hell spring water nearby in just a day. However, it was relatively rare and could not even fit in a mortal pill bottle. Mulian was rather happy and satisfied. In her opinion, it was already extremely lucky to be able to find such an ancient spring water after so many epochs. Because of Su Zimo's escort, they entered the day-night land this time. Although there were some hiccups, it was already very smooth. After obtaining the hell spring water, the three of them did not stay in the day-night land. Many people of the flower realm were infected with the nether calamity poison. The earlier they obtained the hell spring water, the earlier they could escape the danger. Moreover, many cultivators of the blood realm, poison realm, and tomb realm had escaped. If they waited for them to return to their respective realms, they might make a comeback and alarm the grotto heaven realm kings, creating many variables. The three of them left the day-night land and saw Immortal King Yulan waiting outside. Immortal King Yulan was overjoyed when he learned that the three of them had obtained the ancient spring water. "Fellow Taoist Su, thank you so much this time." Immortal King Yulan said, "If you have nothing to do, why don't you come with us to the flower realm? I'll be a good host and the flower realm will definitely reward you." "It's nothing. It's nothing." Su Zimo smiled. At this moment, Su Zimo seemed to have sensed something. He turned his head slightly and looked in another direction, frowning slightly. An obscure energy fluctuation came from the other side of the starry sky, faintly affecting the entire land of day and night. It seemed like someone was using the power of light and darkness to cultivate. Su Zimo didn't think too much about it, nor did he intend to complicate matters. He turned around and was about to reply to Immortal King Yulan when Kitsune suddenly said, "Master, over there." Kitsune pointed at the starry sky on the other side, which was the direction where Su Zimo had just sensed something. She frowned, wanting to say something, but hesitated. "What happened?" Su Zimo asked. Kitsune sensed it again and said hesitantly, "I feel that the bloodline aura coming from there is somewhat familiar." "It should be." After pausing for a moment, Kitsune said slowly, "Kuanpeng bloodline." Su Zimo's expression changed slightly. Although Immortal King Yulan and Mu Lian were surprised when they heard about the Kuanpeng bloodline, they did not think much of it. The Kuanpeng was a forbidden bloodline and was extremely rare. However, in this generation, there was a high chance that the Kuanpeng bloodline could be nurtured in the Kuanpeng world or the Peng world. The two of them could not understand why Su Zimo and Kitsune would reveal such expressions. Su Zimo asked carefree. He had 2 disciples in Tianhuang mainland. His eldest disciple was Kitsune. His second disciple possessed a forbidden Kuan Pang and was named Carefree. Kitsune hesitated for a moment before nodding. My lineage has been guarding that Kuan Pang egg for generations. Therefore, there's a faint connection between my bloodline and junior brother. As long as we're not too far away, I'll be able to sense it. Kitsune's bloodline phenomenon was a gigantic Kuan. Carefree was born in the divine spring beneath the Biming family back then, and was naturally inextricably linked to the bloodline of the Biming family. After ascending, Su Zimo did not receive any news about Carefree. He guessed that Carefree should be in the Kuan Pang world or the Pang world. However, he did not have the chance to head to those 2 super worlds to find out more information. Now that he received news about Carefree, it should have been a good thing. However, Su Zimo noticed that Kitsune did not look too good. Did something happen to Carefree? Su Zimo's expression darkened. Kitsune shook her head slightly. I'm not sure. However, I can sense that he doesn't seem to be in a good condition. Let's go take a look. Su Zimo turned and headed towards the starry sky without hesitation. Immortal King Yulan and Mulyan followed closely behind. Kitsune explained briefly to Immortal King Yulan and Mulyan Yulan. The 2 of them were enlightened and understood why Su Zimo was so nervous. Su Zimo and the other 3 advanced in the direction of the energy fluctuation. Not long after, they gradually approached their destination. Su Zimo seemed to have thought of something and did not rush forward rashly. Instead, he released a few dermic arts from the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra to conceal the auras of the 4 of them. Su Zimo had no choice but to be careful when he sensed the aura of a Grotto Heaven expert ahead. The 4 of them gradually disappeared into the void as they slowly approached the area in front of them. Not far away from the day and night land, there was an ancient star floating. The energy fluctuation that guided the day and night land came from this star. Su Zimo looked at Kitsune. Kitsune nodded as well, indicating that Carefree should be on this star. The 4 of them continued to move towards the star, getting closer and closer. Finally, the star completely entered the 4 people's line of sight. They could also clearly see everything that was happening on the star. 2 figures floated above the star. One of them was a young man with a thin body. His limbs were wrapped in chains that flickered with green runes. His shoulder blades were pierced through by 2 huge hooks and were dripping with blood. These chains were all submerged into the ground of the star. On the ground, formation patterns flickered continuously, revealing a black and white yin-yang diagram that was constantly chasing and biting, absorbing the power of light and darkness of the day and night land. And these powers were continuously injected into the young man's body. The young man's hair was disheveled and his face was pale. He was enduring immense pain as his body twitched continuously. That was because these powers did not stay in his body at all. Opposite this young man was a man in black armor. He had a noble air about him. His black hair danced in the wind, and his eyes were bright and spirited. At that moment, the phantom of a gigantic Kuan appeared behind the man in black armor. It covered the sky and shone with countless spots of light that formed a strange trajectory. The gigantic Kuan opened its mouth and it was like a bottomless black hole that was madly absorbing the power of the young man opposite it. The power of the day and night land surged into the young man's body through the yin-yang formation on the star, and turned into threads that were drawn out of his body. In the midst of these powers, there were even blood-colored threads. The gigantic Kuan behind the man in black armor was not only devouring the power of yin-yang in the young man's body, it was also devouring his bloodline. Chapter 2968. What a vicious method! Immortal King Yulan hid in the void and sent a voice transmission. Su Zimo's gaze was cold and he did not say anything. The young man who was chained above the formation was none other than the Carefree. Immortal King Yulan said, "That black-armored man is releasing a secret skill of the Kuan race, the North Sea Diagram. It possesses an extremely strong devouring power, and it said that it can devour everything at its peak." The so-called North Sea Diagram was the gigantic Kuan that appeared behind the black-armored man. Countless spots of light shone on its body and formed mysterious lines of light. That was the trajectory of the secret skill. Only those with the bloodline of the Kuan race could cultivate the North Sea Diagram. The Kuan race was way too massive and could be ranked as the #1 race among the 10,000 races. Only the massive bodies of the Kuan race could contain so many spots of light and form a complete diagram to release a massive devouring power. He's devouring the carefree's Kuan Pang bloodline, Kitsune said with a cold expression and clenched her fists. It's not just the bloodline, Su Zimo shook his head gently. If it was just to devour the carefree's bloodline, he could have done it anywhere. There was no need for him to travel so far to the vicinity of the day and night land. The formation on the ground could gather the power of light and darkness of the day and night land. The black armored man possessed the bloodline of the Kuan race and could only control the power of the Great Een. He could not absorb the power of light and darkness directly, nor could he balance the two powers. However, the carefree was a forbidden Kuan Pang. Not only did he control the power of the Great Een, he also controlled the power of the Great Yang. Locking the carefree in the formation meant that the power of light and darkness gathered from the day and night land would be channeled into the carefree's body. Only the carefree's Kuan Pang bloodline could absorb such pure and massive power of light and darkness, and convert it into the power of the Great Een and Great Yang in his body. The black armored man then made use of the secret skill of the North Sea diagram to devour the power of the Great Een and Great Yang along with the carefree's Kuan Pang bloodline. In other words, the black armored man was using the carefree to cultivate and even complete a blood swap transformation. At the true self realm and the Tao fruit, it was difficult for a situation such as possession to occur. The Tao fruit, body, bloodline and essence spirit had long fused into one and were inextricably linked. Even if Xiao Yao's primordial spirit was killed and the primordial spirit of the man in black armor took over Xiao Yao's sea of consciousness, it would still not be compatible with Xiao Yao's Kuan Pang bloodline. That was why the man in black armor came up with such a vicious method to let himself be reborn. His rebirth meant the fall of carefree. Moreover, this person was extremely ambitious. It was obvious that he had reached the peak of the Dongshu stage and could step into the Grotto Heaven realm at any time. Not only did he want Xiao Yao's Kuan Pang bloodline, but he also wanted to use this opportunity to break through, condense his paradise, and become a king. Kuan King? Immortal King Yulan's gaze fell on an old man not far from the black-armored man. She murmured, "He's actually still alive." This old man had white hair and looked extremely old. The old man's eyes were as deep as the sea. His hands were behind his back. He stood there without moving, but he faintly emitted a majestic and heavy pressure. "Is this person very strong?" Su Zimo asked. The four of them were hiding in the void. If he rashly released his divine sense to probe their cultivation base, it was very likely that he would be exposed. "Very strong," Immortal King Yulan said with a solemn expression. "This Kuan King has been a peak king for a long time and has been famous for a long time. He dominated the Grotto Heavens hundreds of thousands of years ago. Although he's in his twilight years, the Kuan race's vitality is immense and their bloodline is majestic. I don't have much of a chance of winning against him now. Only those at the perfected Grotto Heaven realm could be called peak kings." Immortal King Yulan continued, "For the Kuan King to accompany and protect him personally, this black-armored man must be extremely noble." Immortal King Yulan's gaze shifted and looked around the black-armored man. Furthermore, the Kuan King isn't the only king around this black-armored man. There are 4 other kings hiding in the dark. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. As Immortal King Yulan said, this black-armored man's identity was definitely not ordinary to have 5 kings protecting him. "What are the cultivation bases of the other 4 kings?" Su Zimo asked. Immortal King Yulan said, "The auras of those 4 are much weaker than the Kuan King. They should be at the lesser mastery of the Grotto Heaven realm and are ordinary kings." Su Zimo's eyes flickered and revealed a trace of killing intent. No matter what identity that black-armored man had, he had to take action and save Carefree. As if sensing something, Immortal King Yulan glanced sideways with a solemn expression and sent a voice transmission. "Fellow Taoist Su, I know you care about your disciple, but don't be rash." Immortal King Yulan could see Su Zimo's intentions and was afraid that he would be distracted by his concern and not be able to see the situation clearly. "It's not that I don't want to help." Immortal King Yulan was rather calm and analyzed. "If I take action, I'll definitely be stopped by the Kuan King. The 3 of you won't be able to save him while being surrounded by 4 kings." Mulyan nodded. Kitsune pursed her lips and did not say anything. Although she was worried about Carefree, she knew that Immortal King Yulan was right. Not to mention 4 kings, even an ordinary king was enough to take their lives. If they acted rashly, not only would they implicate Immortal King Yulan, but the 3 of them would also die. Immortal King Yulan said, Inform Sword World immediately and ask the Peak Masters to step in. Only then can we save Carefree. It's too late. Su Zimo shook his head. Even if they sent a message back now, it would take some time. Moreover, it would take a month for the Peak Masters to rush here. In Carefree's current state, he probably wouldn't even last half a day. Even if Su Zimo called out to Wu Dao's main body now, it would be too late. Right then, a wave of fluctuations came from the void above the star. A middle-aged man walked out of the spatial tunnel with a sinister expression and dark green eyes. Which race? Su Zimo recognized this person at a glance. Moon Witch King. Immortal King Yulan was secretly shocked and sent a voice transmission. This is also a Peak King. More importantly, this Moon Witch King seemed to know the Kuan King. After he appeared, the Kuan King and the others were not surprised. Instead, the two of them gathered together and chatted casually. Su Zimo seemed to have thought of something and looked at the chains wrapped around Carefree's body. These chains were engraved with green runes, which seemed to be a secret technique of the witch race. From the looks of it, these green runes were most likely the work of this Moon Witch King. 2 Peak Kings and 4 ordinary Immortal Kings. It was indeed a little tricky. After a moment of silence, Su Zimo suddenly asked, Taoist Yulan, can you hold back the Kuan King and the Moon Witch King? Immortal King Yulan was shocked and asked, You still want to save them? Su Zimo was silent. As Carefree's master, he couldn't watch his disciple die in front of him. Moreover, according to his deduction, if he tried his best, he might still have a chance. Immortal King Yulan sighed softly. In her opinion, Su Zimo's idea was too crazy and irrational. He was simply courting death. If the rescue failed, Su Zimo and the other two would definitely die. She might not even be able to escape the pursuit of the Kuan King and the Moon Witch King. Even if there was a 1 in 10,000 chance, if they really rescued Carefree, would this matter be over? How would the 4 of them escape? Even if they escaped, with the identity of the black-armored man, how would he give up so easily? There would definitely be endless trouble in the future. Chapter 2969. Immortal King Yulan was silent for a while before sending a voice transmission. I might be able to hold back the Earth Rock King and Moon Witch King if I try my best, but I won't be able to hold them back for long. Saying this meant that Immortal King Yulan was ready to attack. This was not an easy decision for her. How long can you hold them back? Su Zimo asked again. Immortal King Yulan did not understand what Su Zimo could do with this time. Not to mention the fact that she couldn't hold them off for long. Even if she could this Peak Master Su save that young man under the noses of the 4 kings? Immortal King Yulan did not ask and only shook her head. Maybe a few dozen breaths. Maybe even less. If Su Zimo wanted to save the youth, he would definitely affect the black-armored man. The Earth Rock King would definitely go all out when he saw that person in danger. Therefore, she might not be able to hold on for more than a few dozen breaths. That's enough. Su Zimo murmured. What? Immortal King Yulan felt like she was hallucinating and was not sure. She turned to look at Su Zimo and asked again. Su Zimo did not explain and only observed the situation on the star. Even though he had decided to attack, he did not act rashly. This attack was of great importance. The slightest mistake could lead to eternal damnation. Su Zimo had to be sure that there was no one around the star and no other variables. He had to deduce every detail carefully before he attacked. On an ancient star near the land of day and night, the black-armored man was still using Carefree to cultivate, devouring the power of yin and yang and plundering the Earth Rock bloodline. His aura was slowly rising. This Earth Rock's bloodline is a little special. Moon Witch King stared at the blood-colored threads flowing out of Carefree's body. His green eyes flickered as he said softly, Brother Moon Witch King has good eyes. The Earth Rock King nodded slightly and said, This Earth Rock's bloodline is showing signs of atavism. Moon Witch King's eyes lit up. He then took a deep look at Carefree and pursed his lips. What a pity. It's nothing. The Kuan King said casually, As long as the Emperor succeeds this time and inherits his Kuan Pang bloodline, it's not a pity. The Moon Mage King said, Even if he can inherit the Kuan Pang bloodline, there's probably no possibility of atavism. Earth Kuan King nodded and said, This Kuan Pang came from the lower realm. I don't know what kind of fortuitous encounter he obtained to transform into the Kuan Pang bloodline. Without anyone to protect him, he won't be able to protect his bloodline. This Xuanpeng is smart. After it ascended, it never showed the characteristics of the Xuanpeng bloodline. It only showed the aura of the Xuan race's bloodline. Haha. The Earth Rock King chuckled and said, "Unfortunately, he can't hide from the perception of an Imperial Emperor expert." At this moment, the Moon Witch King seemed to have sensed something. His gaze shifted, and he said in a low voice, "Someone's here." In the next moment, 4 figures tore through the void and descended on the ancient planet. One of them was Immortal King Yulan. After appearing, Immortal King Yulan did not hesitate. She propped up her great perfection paradise and enveloped the Earth Rock King and Moon Witch King. After the 4 of them arrived, they split into 2 groups. Immortal King Yulan charged toward the Earth Rock King and Moon Witch King, while the other 3 charged toward the black armored man in midair. The Earth Rock King frowned. Among the 4 figures, only Immortal King Yulan was at the Great Perfection Paradise realm. The other 3 were only at the True Self realm and could not threaten the black armored man at all. The black armored man was guarded by 4 Xuan race kings. The 3 true spirits could not get close to the black armored man at all. As for the peak stage Immortal King in front of him, the Earth Rock King curled his lips and revealed a cold smile. Not to mention the peak stage Immortal King of the Witch race beside him. Even he himself was enough to suppress Immortal King Yulan. "You are courting death." The Earth Rock King did not hesitate. The void behind him collapsed, and a huge grotto heaven appeared. A dark and deep ocean surged inside, emitting a cold and sinister aura. Flower Realm. Immortal King Yulan? The Moon Witch King recognized Immortal King Yulan and raised his eyebrows. He also propped up a grotto heaven and faced her. Boom! Boom! The 3 great perfection grotto heavens collided directly, erupting with a deafening explosion that shook the starry sky and the earth. On the other side, 3 figures pounced toward the black armored man in midair. The 4 Xuan race kings hiding in the dark immediately appeared. One of them stood in front of the 3 with a disdainful expression. He suddenly spoke and unleashed a sound domain secret technique in the direction of the 3. He alone was enough to deal with 3 true spirits. He did not even need to use his grotto heaven. The other 3 kings of the Xuan race watched this scene calmly. Due to the Xuan race's huge bodies and majestic chi and blood, the sound domain secret technique would erupt with extremely terrifying destructive power. Even kings of the same level from other races might not be able to escape unscathed. If they were facing true spirits, the sound domain secret technique of the Xuan race was enough to shatter their bodies and primordial spirits into a bloody mist and kill them instantly. Poof, poof, poof. As expected. After the sound domain secret technique was unleashed, the 3 figures could not withstand the impact and their bodies instantly exploded. However, after the 3 figures' bodies exploded, no blood flowed out. Only 3 jade slips were left floating in the air, emitting purple, red, and green rays of light. Oh! The Xuan race king was stunned. This is the 3 pure jade booklet? The other 3 Xuan race kings exclaimed in disbelief when they saw the 3 jade slips. The Xuan race king who had just attacked seemed to sense that something was wrong. However, he could not figure it out. At that moment, a figure rushed out of the void that Immortal King Yulan and the others had just walked out of. It was too fast. Almost the instant after the Xuan race king released the sound domain secret technique, this figure rushed out. When the Xuan race king saw the 3 pure jade booklet and was slightly dazed, this figure arrived in front of him and slashed forward with an emerald sword in hand. The sword flashed and sank into the Xuan race king's glabella. This sword completely ended this person's life. No matter how strong a king's primordial spirit was, it could not block the Qingping sword's sharpness. The Xuan race king's eyes widened in disbelief even at the moment of his death. Just as the sword light flashed, he finally understood one thing. If the 3 pure jade booklet belonged to Immortal King Yulan, it should be a clone of a king, not a true self. In other words, the owner of the 3 pure jade booklet was someone else. Apart from the 3 pure jade clone, there should be another true body. However, even if he understood this, the Xuan race king would never have imagined that a true spirit could kill him instantly. This was a perfect assassination. Su Zimo's timing was the moment the Xuan race king was dazed when he saw the 3 pure jade booklet after releasing the sound domain secret technique. Whether it was a moment faster or a moment slower, it would not have achieved this effect. Chapter 2970. A Kuan king was killed in an instant. Immortal King Yulan couldn't help but exclaim when she saw this. A Dongshu realm true spirit was able to kill a Grotto Heaven realm king. Even the most outstanding geniuses in history might not be able to do so. This assassination could be said to be breathtaking. Be it the timing, the release of the secret technique, or the opponent's mentality, they were all perfectly used by him. In order to succeed in the assassination, Su Zhu didn't hesitate to reveal the 3 pure jade book. But at the same time, Immortal King Yulan also knew that killing a Kuan king didn't mean that Su Zhu could fight against a Kuan king. This kind of assassination could only be attempted once, and could only succeed once. There were still 3 Kuan kings on the other side. They reacted and attacked with all their might. Su Zhu had no chance. Immortal King Yulan tried her best to stall the Kuan king and Moon Witch king, but she sighed in her heart. In her opinion, Su Zimo was risking it all by exposing a secret utmost treasure like the 3 pure jade manual in order to assassinate a king of the Kuan race. Although he succeeded, the appearance of the 3 purity jade book would definitely attract the attention of others. When the Kuan king and the Moon Witch king saw the 3 clarities jade booklet, their eyes shone brightly, and a hint of excitement flashed past them. Seeing a Kuan king die, the Kuan king and Moon Witch king were slightly surprised, but they didn't take it to heart. It was just a true spirit. Even if he succeeded in killing a Kuan king, it wouldn't cause much trouble. They were already secretly planning how to snatch the 3 purity jade book. On the other side of the battlefield, with the death of a Kuan king, Su Zimo's true body was completely exposed. The armor-clad man was originally cultivating, but when he saw this, he couldn't help but frown. But he looked calm and wasn't worried at all. The remaining 3 Kuan kings had already gone up to meet him. Master. Carefree opened his eyes with great difficulty. When he saw the figure below him, he found it hard to believe. He murmured softly, and his eyes gradually turned red. The armor-clad man had stolen his bloodline, and he had been resisting and persevering. He didn't want to give in just like that. However, his body was bound by chains covered in sorcerer tribe runes. His shoulder blades were pierced through, and he could not even transform into his true form. He could not resist at all. Carefree could clearly feel that his bloodline was being devoured bit by the black-armored man. Pain and despair. Carefree's heart was filled with helplessness. His consciousness gradually became blurry. Just as he was about to lower his head and give up, there was a sudden change below. He subconsciously looked up and saw a familiar figure with black hair and green robes. Master? Was this for real? Master has come to save me. At that moment, the 3 Kuan kings did not hold back at all. They raised their respective grotto heavens and surrounded their master. Carefree widened his eyes and subconsciously clenched his fists. He could tell that his master's cultivation had yet to reach the grotto heaven realm. His master was only a true spirit realm cultivator. How was he supposed to defend himself against 3 Kuan kings? A mere immortal spirit dares to meddle in the affairs of the Kuan race? You are truly courting death. A Kuan race king released a light shout, his eyes cold. He propped up his heavenly passage, suppressing downwards. On the battlefield, Su Zimo did not retreat against the encirclement of the 3 Kuan kings. He had no space to dodge. The 3 Kuan kings' grotto heavens had already sealed all the space around him. Su Zimo took a deep breath. His eyes shone brightly as he conjured hand seals with both hands. He frantically activated his essence spirit and released his innate ability, 8 Fangs Divine Power. Swoosh! Su Zimo's aura instantly rose to another level. After releasing this innate ability, Su Zimo's physical body, bloodline, and essence spirit were all at their peak. Boom! A loud explosion sounded from Su Zimo's body. In the blink of an eye, 3 heads grew from his shoulders, and 6 arms grew from his sides. Supreme ability, 4 heads, 8 arms. Both of his palms unleashed a supreme divine ability each. In the state of 4 heads, 8 arms, Su Zimo's black hair billowed and his aura surged. He was like a Shura that had descended. His gaze was like lightning as he stared at the 3 Kuan kings around him. Hiss! The 3 kings of the Kuan race gasped. This was 4 heads, 8 arms. Originally, the 3 of them had surrounded Su Zimo. However, at this moment, the 3 Kuan kings felt as if they were being attacked by Su Zimo. Su Zimo's newly grown 6 arms were not idle either. His palms moved at the same time as he conjured different hand seals. A blood-red long sword that contained boundless killing intent caused the stars in the heavens and earth to tremble. Dragons and snakes danced in the air as the heavens and earth were overturned. Immortal slaying sword. Roar, roar. Wang mani pami hum. Suddenly, a series of Sanskrit chants sounded in mid-air, accompanied by the roars of dragons and elephants. Around Xueqi, Buddhas, dragons, and elephants appeared. Buddhist light illuminated the entire world. Buddhas, dragons, and elephants. A huge abyss vortex descended from the sky. 6 strange runes flashed on it as it spun continuously. It was as if it wanted to devour everything in the world and drag all life into the cycle of reincarnation. 6 paths of reincarnation. Whoosh! A scarlet flame burst out and condensed into a small fiery red sparrow in midair. Its body contained a terrifying power that was incomparably hot and could incinerate the world. Vermilion bird heavenly fire. Another hand seal descended. The surrounding space was locked, and time came to a standstill. Space-time imprisonment. Xueqi's left eye was pitch black, while his right eye was pure white. 2 divine lights, one black and one white, condensed into a huge yin-yang millstone in mid-air. Limitless yin-yang. Including the 8 fangs divine force and 4 heads and 8 arms at the beginning, Xueqi unleashed 8 supreme divine powers at the same time. In an instant, the earth and mountains shook, and the void trembled. The commotion was so great that even immortal King Yulan and the other 2 who were fighting on the other side subconsciously looked over. What they saw shocked the 3 of them. What was that? Supreme divine powers? They had seen almost all the supreme divine powers since they had started cultivating. However, they had never seen so many supreme divine powers being unleashed from the same person at the same time. The scene before them was earth-shattering with a terrifying aura. It was not any weaker than the head-on confrontation between their grotto heavens. Xueqi had once relied on his 4 heads and 8 arms state to control the Qingping sword, Tai horsetail whisk, and other treasures to dominate in close combat. As a matter of fact, that was not the ultimate move of 4 heads and 8 arms. The meaning of 4 heads and 8 arms was not just for close combat. In the state of 4 heads and 8 arms, Xueqi could unleash 8 supreme divine powers at the same time, unleashing them instantly and pushing his killing power to the limit. Although supreme divine powers were powerful, they were limited by their cultivation realm after all. The release of their true spirits could not shake the grotto heavens at all. Even with 2 or 3 supreme mystic skills, there was no way they could fight against the grotto heaven. What about 5 or 6? What kind of power would be unleashed when 8 supreme divine powers were unleashed at the same time and stacked together? Since ancient times, there had never been such a scene before. Therefore, no one knew what kind of power would be unleashed when 8 supreme divine powers were unleashed at the same time. Even Xueqi had no idea. Xueqi stared at the 3 kings of the Kuan race with his 4 heads and 8 eyes and spoke at the same time. His voice echoed across the heavens and earth as he said slowly, "Today, you're lucky enough to witness it with your own eyes." Chapter 2971. Other than using the 4 heads and 8 arms and 8 fangs to improve his condition, Xueqi used the remaining 6 supreme mystiques on one of the Kuan kings without holding back. The 3 Kuan kings stood in 3 different positions. If the 6 supreme mystiques were spread out and used against the 3 grotto heavens, it would be equivalent to having their power dissipated. They might not be able to do anything. The safest way was to use all of them on one of the Kuan kings. The immortal vanquishing sword was extremely murderous. The Buddhas, dragons, and elephants shook the void. The 6 paths of reincarnation devoured everything. The vermilion bird heavenly fire incinerated everything. The infinite yin and yang crushed heaven and earth. Coupled with the restriction of time and space, although it only affected the Kuan king for a moment, it was more than enough. The 6 supreme mystiques covered the sky and the 6 paths of reincarnation. When combined, the power that burst out had completely transformed and reached another level. Boom! The 6 supreme mystiques collided with the grotto heavens and exploded with a loud bang. After a slight pause, the grotto heavens collapsed and turned into nothingness. Whoosh! The king of the Kuan immediately unleashed his blood chi and transformed into a giant Kuan. Even so, he still couldn't block the attack of the 6 supreme spells. The immortal vanquishing sword left shocking wounds on his body. They were so deep that his bones could be seen. His body was almost torn apart. Although the giant Kuan's body was huge, it still couldn't withstand the 6 paths of reincarnation. Boom! After all, he was the Xuan King. With a loud bang, the Xuan King used his powerful blood essence to break free of the 6 paths of reincarnation. However, he was already covered in injuries. Under the chants of the Buddhas and the attacks of the divine dragons and elephants, the wounds on his body deepened and blood flowed non-stop. The Xuan King's body was shattered into pieces. This kind of injury was nothing to a Xuan King. However, the supreme mystiques didn't stop attacking. The millstone formed by the infinite yin and yang descended and continuously crushed the Xuan King's shattered body, not giving him a chance to rebuild his body. Under the crushing power of yin and yang, the Xuan King's body exploded into a bloody mist. Even his primordial spirit was severely injured. Even so, the Xuan King was still alive. The Xuan race's vitality was too strong. As long as he had a chance to catch his breath, he would be able to recover. However, the vermilion bird Heavenly Flame followed closely behind, not giving him any chance. A small fiery red sparrow rushed into the blood mist and then exploded into flames that filled the sky, forming a momentum that could burn the heavens. The Xuan King's primordial spirit and flesh were quickly burned to ashes. The space around the star was burned red, as if the sky was filled with red clouds. Amidst the devastation, there was also a strange sense of beauty. When the people on the planet saw this, they were all shocked. Even the 3 Pinnacle Kings, Immortal King Yulan, Earth Rock King, and Moon Witch King, felt an unprecedented shock. How could this be? Releasing a supreme divine ability was extremely taxing on one's primordial spirit. The burden on his primordial spirit was even greater after continuously releasing supreme divine abilities. How much of a toll would it take on one's primordial spirit to release 8 supreme divine abilities in one breath? He was just a true spirit. How could he possibly withstand it? Releasing multiple supreme divine abilities at the same time was more taxing on one's primordial spirit than continuously releasing them. Back then, Su Zimo had released many supreme divine abilities consecutively in the evil spirit battlefield, which had already made the scalps of many kings go numb. Now, he had released 8 supreme divine abilities in an instant. The shock in the hearts of the 3 Pinnacle Kings could be imagined. Of course, the Earth Rock King didn't know that Su Zimo's primordial spirit was the fusion of the taboo dragon phoenix and the creation Qinglian's primordial spirit. It also contained the yin and yang powers of candlelight and nether glow. It was supplemented by the number 1 spirit refinement mystic art, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Under normal circumstances, his primordial spirit was comparable to an ordinary king's primordial spirit. When he released the power of 8 fangs and had 4 heads and 8 arms, the strength of Su Zimo's primordial spirit had already reached the greater mastery of the Grotto Heaven realm, comparable to a peerless king. It was also because of this that the power of the 6 supreme divine abilities could reach such a terrifying level. Almost in a breath's time, he had killed a Xuan King. The first reaction of the Earth Rock King and the Moon Witch King was that Su Zimo's battle prowess most likely came from the taboo secret manual, the 3 Pure Jade Book. This scene strengthened the determination of the 2 Pinnacle Kings to snatch the 3 Pure Jade Book. Immortal King Yulan was secretly speechless. Although Su Zimo had killed 2 kings in a row after he appeared, the difference between before and after was like heaven and earth. In the first case, Su Zimo had relied on his battle prowess to take advantage of the situation and successfully assassinate a Xuan King. As for the latter, Su Zimo unleashed an unparalleled killing technique against the encirclement of 3 kings and killed a Xuan race king head-on. A Grotto Void Realm true spirit already had the battle prowess to kill an ordinary king head-on. It could even destroy the opponent's body and soul. Such talent and potential were enough to make any of his opponents wary or even fearful. Of course, in Immortal King Yulan's opinion, Su Zimo wanted to save them, but it was still as difficult as ascending to the heavens. After all, there were still 2 Xuan Kings left. And he had used all his trump cards. How could he get rid of the 2 kings? Whether it was Immortal King Yulan or the Earth Rock King, neither of them had realized what Su Zimo was planning to do. The entire process seemed long, but only 2 breaths had passed from the moment Su Zimo appeared to the moment the 2 Xuan Kings died. The battle still hadn't stopped. "You're Su Zhu from the Sword World." A Xuan King quickly guessed Su Zimo's identity. In the 3,000 worlds, the only true spirit who had comprehended so many supreme divine abilities was the Peak Master of the 9th Sword Peak who had risen to fame in recent years. "You've released so many supreme divine abilities. I'd like to see what other tricks you have up your sleeve." The other Xuan King's eyes were cold as he shouted and charged over with a small grotto heaven. In their opinion, Releasing 8 supreme divine abilities at the same time was too taxing on the primordial spirit. A true spirit wouldn't be able to withstand it. Furthermore, supreme divine abilities were the strongest means of a true spirit. What else could Suju have left? Facing the incoming Kuan King, Su Zimo didn't retreat at all. Instead, he charged forward. Behind him, the void collapsed, and a looming grotto heaven appeared. This is a grotto heaven? The Kuan King's face turned pale in fright. He thought that Su Zimo was hiding his cultivation level, but in fact, he had already stepped into the grotto heaven realm. But soon, he discovered something strange. It's not a grotto heaven. The Kuan King calmed down and suddenly laughed. So it's just a grotto heaven phantom. You want to fight my real grotto heaven with just this? Before he finished speaking, the grotto heaven phantom behind Su Zimo collided with the Kuan King's small grotto heaven. Rumble! The void shook. The scene of the Kuan race's king crushing the other party as he had imagined did not happen. On the contrary, Su Zimo's grotto heaven phantom could even fight his small grotto heaven head-on. Su Zimo's grotto heaven phantom contained the Tao of the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra, the divine power of candlelight and nether glow, and even the power of light and darkness. Even though it was just a phantom, it wasn't weaker than a real grotto heaven. Chapter 2972. Boom! Another deafening sound echoed. Su Zimo's grotto heaven phantom and the Kuan monarch's grotto heaven shattered at the same time, turning into nothingness. Su Zimo raised the tiny horsetail whisk with one hand and 3,000 silver threads tore through the air, wrapping around the Kuan monarch's body to prevent him from reverting to his true form. At the same time, he threw out the Sanyu Rui with his other hand towards the Kuan monarch's head. With his other hand, he waved the Qingping sword and stabbed towards the other party's glabella. Seeing that the situation was bad, the other Kuan monarch hurriedly supported his grotto heaven to suppress it. Su Zimo's grotto heaven phantom had already dissipated in the collision earlier on. Now that it was facing the attack of another grotto heaven, it seemed like it could not withstand the burden. Inside his body, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. His body was trembling slightly. Let's see how you're going to survive. The Kuan monarch roared and channeled his essence spirit, releasing all the power of his grotto heaven. The grotto heaven behind him emitted a dark light and surged coldly within, enveloping Su Zimo bit by bit. Su Zimo's physical body had indeed reached the level of the grotto heaven realm. However, it was still difficult for him to withstand the might of the grotto heaven. Seeing Su Zimo's figure being devoured by the grotto heaven bit by bit, the carefree Xiao Yao clenched his fists tightly with tears in his eyes. He struggled continuously as the chains on his body rattled. Fu. When the black-armored man saw this, he chuckled and said proudly, "Stop struggling. This is the fate of you and your disciple." Immortal King Yulan sighed inwardly when she saw this scene. The fact that Su Zimo could kill 2 Kuan monarchs and destroy the grotto heaven of a third Kuan monarch had already far exceeded her imagination. Unfortunately, he was still a little lacking. Su Zimo was dead and there was no way she could hold on here. It was time for her to think of a way out. Right then, a sonorous voice sounded from the Kuan monarch's grotto heaven. "I've never believed in fate." The moment he said that, a series of terrifying cracking sounds could be heard from the Kuan monarch's grotto heaven. Above the small heavenly abode, spiderweb-like cracks gradually appeared and rapidly expanded, covering the entire heavenly abode. Whoosh! Suddenly, streaks of dazzling green light burst out of the small grotto heaven, illuminating the void and cleansing the universe. Rumble! Subsequently, a deafening explosion resounded from the battlefield. Even Immortal King Yulan and the other 2 who were fighting in the distance were shocked and subconsciously looked over. Then, the 3 of them saw an extremely shocking scene. A dark green Qinglian was seen bursting out of that small heavenly passage, defying the heavens as it rose up. Enormous lotus leaves grew on its body, covering the sky and covering the sun, flickering with light. At the very top of Qinglian, there was a lotus flower that emitted a green brilliance. The 12 circles of lotus leaves were constantly blooming, and the 108 lotus seeds were dancing in the air. This Qinglian exuded an incomparably terrifying aura, as if it was the god of all creatures. It took root in the stars, connected to the heavens and penetrated the earth, overlooking the 3,000 worlds. Hiss! When the 3 peak stage immortal kings saw this scene, they were all shocked. This is the 12th grade creation Qinglian. Immortal King Yulan had long guessed that Su Zimo might be related to the creation Qinglian, but she did not expect that Su Zimo had already cultivated the creation Qinglian to the 12th grade realm. Under normal circumstances, Su Zimo's physical body had already reached the level of a small heavenly abode. After releasing the eight-fang divine power, the power of this bloodline phenomenon had already surpassed that of a small heavenly abode. When the 12th grade creation Qinglian's bloodline phenomenon appeared, Su Zimo, who was under the four-headed and eight-armed immortal king, immediately broke free and took out the Tri-Jade Rui scepter, the Tai Horsetail whisk, and the Qingping sword to attack the two Kuan kings. The two Kuan kings were scared out of their wits. They had never seen a true spirit being able to erupt with such terrifying combat strength. The bloodline phenomenon of a true spirit was able to destroy a small heavenly abode. What kind of bloodline was this? Without the protection of the heavenly abode, the two of them could not withstand Su Zimo's attack at all. In close combat, no one could defeat the four-headed and eight-armed Su Zimo. Not to mention the two Kuan kings, even two more would not be enough. The two Kuan kings also took out their bloodline phenomenons, but they still could not withstand the attack of the 12th grade creation Qinglian. The giant Kuan behind them appeared and wanted to devour the 12th grade creation Qinglian, but it was quickly shattered by the swaying Qinglian and turned into nothingness. The most terrifying thing was that the two Kuan kings could clearly feel that their bloodlines were being suppressed. The 12th grade creation Qinglian appeared behind them and the four-headed, eight-armed Su Zimo held all kinds of divine weapons. His gaze was like lightning and his aura was monstrous. He was unparalleled. Ever since Su Zimo's Qinglian true body stepped into the true self stage, he was worried that his bloodline would be exposed, so he had never used his full strength. Even when facing the siege of more than 20 supreme true spirits in the evil demon battlefield, Su Zimo had still held back. It was only today that the 12th grade Qinglian true body truly erupted with its full strength. In just a few rounds, it killed the two Kuan kings. This was the true combat strength of Qinglian true body at its peak state. Su Zimo had not stepped into the heavenly abode, but he dared to travel with immortal King Yulan. The most important reason was that he had something to rely on. He knew that if he really faced an ordinary immortal king, he had enough means to kill them. Even if he could not defeat a peerless king or a peak king, he had the chance to escape thousands of miles away. At this point in the battle, the four Kuan kings guarding the black-armored man had all died. Apart from the first one, who was killed by Su Zimo in a daze. The other three were killed by Su Zimo domineeringly in a head-on battle. Seeing this scene, the black-armored man in midair finally panicked. After killing the four Kuan race kings, Su Zimo glared at him right away. "Earth Kuan King, come and save me." The black-armored man's heart trembled as he hurriedly shouted. The Earth Kuan King frowned with an ugly expression. The black-armored man had a noble status as the Arch. He had been arranged by the Kuan the Arch to protect his safety. Naturally, he could not let him suffer any harm. The Earth Kuan King let out a long roar, and the power of the heavenly abode behind him skyrocketed as it pressed down on immortal King Yulan. The Moon Witch King sensed the Earth Kuan King's intentions and also released secret techniques to tie down immortal King Yulan's energy. Immortal King Yulan retreated step by step. Her perfected grotto heaven was on the verge of collapse and could not hold on any longer. The Earth Kuan King left his perfected grotto heaven on the battlefield and continued to pressure immortal King Yulan. At the same time, he moved and instantly appeared behind Su Zimo, smashing down with his palm. Boom! Su Zimo's bloodline phenomenon instantly collapsed. The Earth Kuan King was a peak king. Even without the protection of his grotto heaven, he could easily kill Su Zimo with just his physical body and bloodline. With a perfected grotto heaven, his Tao techniques were close to perfection and he tempered his physical body and bloodline all year round. Naturally, he was far from what ordinary kings could compare to. Su Zimo was only a true spirit after all. The difference between the two was too great. The grade 12 creation Qinglian's bloodline phenomenon could not withstand it at all. Die! The Earth Kuan King's gaze was cold. After shattering Qinglian's bloodline phenomenon with one palm, his palm did not stop and continued to press down on Su Zimo's head. The power of this palm was so strong that it instantly collapsed the void and sealed all the space Su Zimo could dodge. Chapter 2973. Su Zimo seemed to know that he could not avoid it and could only wave his 8 arms to meet the Earth Kuan monarch's huge hand. "Huh," the Earth Kuan monarch sneered. "A mantis trying to stop a chariot. That's all there is to it." Compared to his attack, Su Zimo's palm was too weak. At that moment, the Earth Kuan monarch's heart palpitated for no reason. The Earth Kuan monarch's heart skipped a beat as he continued attacking Su Zimo. At the same time, he was on guard and probed his surroundings. As far as he was concerned, only a peak king could threaten him. If it was not immortal King Yulan, there would be other experts spying nearby. However, he did not detect anything unusual with his divine consciousness. There were indeed two women in the distant void. However, they were only true spirits and were nothing to be afraid of. They seemed to be from the Sword World and Flower World. After dealing with immortal King Yulan and the Ninth Sword Peak Master, he would kill the two of them. A few thoughts flashed through his mind as the Earth Kuan monarch's huge hand collided with Su Zimo's 8 arms. A huge force surged over, vast and majestic. Su Zimo's body shook violently. Even his 4 heads and 8 arms could not withstand it. Crack! Su Zimo's 6 arms and 3 heads exploded instantly. The Earth Kuan monarch broke his 4-headed, 8-armed state with a casual palm strike. Su Zimo's bones were broken and his organs were ruptured. He spat out blood and fell heavily to the ground, stirring up a lot of dust. A terrifying force surged into Qinglian's true body, destroying the vitality of this body. If not for Qinglian's true body having grown to the 12th stage and had a huge vitality and powerful blood qi, he would have died on the spot with just that palm strike. Su Zimo endured the pain and stared at the Earth Kuan monarch. There was no fear in his eyes. Instead, he was looking forward to it. This scene was not out of the Earth Kuan monarch's expectations. A true spirit was too weak in front of him. So what if it was a 12th stage creation Qinglian? So what if she had 4 heads and 8 arms? She could not withstand a single blow. The Earth Kuan monarch did not even look at Su Zimo. His huge hand did not stop and continued to press down, wanting to crush Su Zimo to death. In midair, the Earth Kuan monarch looked down from above, his white hair fluttering. With one hand, he heavily injured Su Zimo with indescribable ease. That was the battle strength of a pinnacle king. Overwhelming strength. The Earth Rock King stood proudly and said indifferently, "In front of absolute power your..." Before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly. It was because he heard a muffled drum sound. It was lifeless, indescribably sorrowful, devoid of life. These scenes flashed before the Earth Kuan monarch's eyes like a merry-go-round. Finally, he saw a white-haired withered old man with a face full of wrinkles. His eyes were lifeless as he stood alone on an ancient planet. He was on the verge of death and could die at any moment. That old man. It was himself. That ancient star was the star he was standing on. The Earth Kuan monarch shook his head vigorously. When he opened his eyes again, the scene just now had already disappeared. Was it an illusion? The Earth Kuan monarch suddenly felt a tightness in his chest and took a deep breath instinctively. Even his breathing became extremely difficult. The Earth Kuan monarch seemed to have thought of something and extended his hands instinctively. There was not much flesh left on his palms. They were only skin and bones covered in old wrinkles. My lifespan. The Earth Kuan monarch was horrified and wanted to activate his essence spirit to release a dermic art. However, his essence spirit was already dried up and the blood qi in his body was declining. He no longer had any vitality. Even the Earth Kuan monarch's grand perfection grotto heaven above immortal King Yulan's head had quietly dissipated. Immortal King Yulan heaved a sigh of relief and looked over. At this moment, the Moon Witch King was also looking at the Earth Kuan monarch in horror. Although the Earth Kuan monarch had already left his peak, his lifespan was still at least a few 100,000 years. Although he was a little old, he still maintained his powerful combat strength. At this moment, the Earth Kuan monarch was old and senile. The vitality in his body had dissipated, and his lifespan had been completely exhausted. How could such a huge change happen in such a short time? Although Immortal King Yulan and the Moon Witch King were fighting, the two of them had been paying attention to the situation here. The Earth Kuan monarch had already severely injured Sword Realm Su Zhu and was about to kill her when such a strange and terrifying scene suddenly occurred. In the entire process, no one attacked the Earth Kuan monarch at all. However, without any warning, the situation changed drastically. The Earth Kuan monarch suddenly fell into such a miserable state and could no longer survive. How could this be? At this moment, the Earth Kuan monarch seemed to have thought of something. Using the last of his strength, he slowly turned his head. The Earth Kuan monarch looked at Su Zimo, who had been severely injured by his palm and had fallen to the ground. His turbid eyes flickered with indignation as he squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. "It's you?" Indeed, no one had attacked him just now. The only person he had come into contact with was only one. A true spirit that he disdained to look at. Immortal King Yulan and the Moon Witch King were also dumbfounded as they looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away, in disbelief. The Earth Kuan monarch had ended up in such a state because of a true spirit? Su Zimo slowly stood up, his face somewhat pale. It had been a long time since he had suffered such serious injuries. After being severely injured by the Earth Kuan monarch's palm force, even the level 12 Qinglian's true body of a true spirit of creation took an extremely long time to recover. Su Zimo looked at the Earth Kuan monarch, who was not far away, and said indifferently, "I have comprehended 9 supreme abilities and only released 8 of them just now. I have been saving this fleeting youth for you." This fleeting youth, which had fused with the morning bell and evening drum, had completely transformed. However, under normal circumstances, this fleeting youth would not be able to threaten a king as long as he had the protection of a grotto heaven. Or perhaps, a king at his peak age could prop up his grotto heaven the moment he sensed the exhaustion of his lifespan and stop it. This was the suppression of one's realm and Tao technique. However, the Earth Kuan monarch was already past his prime and had left his grotto heaven in another battlefield to restrain immortal King Yulan. The reason why Su Zimo had not used Moment of Youth was because he was waiting for such an opportunity. Hearing Su Zimo's words, the Earth Kuan monarch seemed to have thought of something. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he opened his mouth slightly, as if he wanted to say something. "You. He. Before the Earth Kuan monarch could finish his last sentence, his lifespan was exhausted, and he collapsed powerlessly on the ground, dead. Just like the Earth Kuan monarch, immortal King Yulan had also heard the meaning behind Su Zimo's words just now. This fleeting moment of youth has always been reserved for you. In other words, this peak master of the Sword Realm, a true spirit at the Dongshu stage, had been eyeing the Earth Kuan monarch since the very beginning. Not only did this peak master Su want to save someone, but he also wanted to kill someone. Moreover, he wanted to kill a king at the peak. Immortal King Yulan felt her scalp go numb. This Su Zhu really had guts. Even she did not dare to have such thoughts. However, Su Zhu had been eyeing the Earth Kuan monarch from the very beginning, wanting to kill this king at the peak. More importantly, he had succeeded. Chapter 2974. Su Zimo had successfully killed the Earth Rock King, but that didn't mean that he had the battle prowess to challenge a Pinnacle King. Moreover, the Earth Rock King's palm strike wasn't easy for him either. Su Zimo tried his best to calm his breathing, relying on the self-healing power of the level 12 creation Qinglian to slowly circulate his qi and blood to heal his injuries. With the death of the Earth Rock King, the situation on the planet immediately changed. The Moon Witch King wanted to retreat. Even if he stayed here, it would be very difficult to kill immortal King Yulan. As long as he left and spread the news of what happened today, he would be able to bring great trouble to the Sword Realm and the Flower Realm. He wasn't related to the Black Armored Man, so there was no need for him to stay here. The Black Armored Man seemed to have realized that the situation wasn't good, and he looked a little flustered. He was currently at the most critical juncture. If he left now, all his efforts would be in vain. However, if he didn't leave, there would be no one to protect him, and his life might be in danger. At this moment, Su Zhu dragged her heavily injured body into the air. She didn't head towards him, but rather towards the other side of the battlefield. The Black Armored Man heaved a sigh of relief. He hesitated and didn't choose to leave immediately. Immortal King Yulan and the Moon Witch King, who were still fighting, immediately noticed Su Zimo's movements. The same thought flashed through their minds at the same time. What is he going to do? Immortal King Yulan's guess was right. Before Su Zimo made his move, he was already prepared to kill. He didn't just want to kill the 4 ordinary Kuan kings, but also the Earth Rock King and the Moon Witch King. Before Immortal King Yulan made her move, she had countless doubts and worries. She was worried that even if she saved them, they would be plagued with endless troubles in the future. Su Zimo naturally thought of this too. And all his worries could be resolved in one way. That was to kill the 4 ordinary immortal kings, the Black Armored Man, and even the Earth Rock King and the Moon Witch King. He had to eliminate all possible troubles and disasters in advance, so as to prevent future troubles. That was why Su Zimo released Qinglian's bloodline without hesitation. The Moon Witch King seemed to have sensed Su Zimo's killing intent and could not help but frown. This heavily injured true spirit still wanted to kill him? This Su Zhu had unleashed 9 supreme divine arts and was severely injured by the Earth Kuan King. How much battle strength did she have left? If it were any other time, this kind of true spirit, he could crush it with a single finger. It was just that with the Earth Kuan King dead, he also did not have the heart to persist in fighting. Hee. The Moon Witch King sneered and said, "The two of you have caused a great disaster. Just wait for the Kuan realm's revenge." His voice hadn't died away when the Moon Witch King and Immortal King Yulan collided head-on once again, and the Moon Witch King seized the opportunity to retreat, intending to leave this place. "Hold him," Su Zimo growled. Even without Su Zimo's reminder, Immortal King Yulan knew how important this matter was. Immortal King Yulan pushed her primordial spirit to the limit. Her chi and blood surged as she chased after him again. "Humph." The Moon Witch King snorted coldly and said, "Yulan, with your strength alone, you can't hold me back at all." In fact, Immortal King Yulan also knew that if the Moon Witch King wanted to escape this place, with her battle strength, she couldn't hold him back at all. The opposite was also true. If she wanted to leave now, the Moon Witch King couldn't hold her back either. There was indeed a gap between the two's battle strength, but it wasn't to the extent where they could suppress each other. "Hold his grotto heaven." At this moment, Su Zimo spoke again. Immortal King Yulan still didn't understand. Even if she held back the Moon Witch King's great perfection grotto heaven with all her strength, what could she do? The most important reason why Su Zimo could kill the Earth Kuan King earlier was that the Earth Kuan King had underestimated him and was not on guard. Now, the Moon Witch King would definitely be on guard. Not to mention that Su Zimo couldn't unleash that supreme divine art that could reduce one's lifespan in a short period of time. Even if he still had the strength to unleash it, the Moon Witch King wouldn't give him the chance to succeed. As a pinnacle king, he naturally knew countless divine arts and secret techniques. Any one of them could break that supreme divine art. Although she was puzzled, Immortal King Yulan still didn't hesitate. She unleashed her full strength and unleashed many secret techniques in succession, temporarily locking down the Moon Witch King's great perfection grotto heaven. The Moon Witch King glanced at Su Zimo, full of mockery and contempt, and sneered, "You're just a true spirit, so you don't understand the battle between kings. So what if you've trapped my grotto heaven? Naive." Immortal King Yulan temporarily held back the Moon Witch King's grotto heaven, which also meant that her grotto heaven was also restricted to where it was and couldn't be used for the time being. She couldn't even be distracted. Once she was slightly distracted, the Moon Witch King's great perfection grotto heaven would break free. And at this moment, the Moon Witch King could leave at any time. Was she going to rely on the heavily injured Su Zimo to stop a pinnacle king? Su Zimo didn't reply. His left eye was pitch black, while his right eye was pure white. 2 beams of light, one black and one white, shot out and landed on the Tai horsetail whisk in his hand. The jade handle was the shaft, the silver thread was the hair, and yin and yang were the ink. Su Zimo waved the Tai horsetail whisk, rapidly writing 12 strange characters in the void. The black characters were dark and cold. Ding Mao, Ding Si, Ding Wei, Ding Yu, Ding Hai, Ding Chou. The white characters were blazing with light. Jia Zi, Jia Su, Jia Shen, Jia Wu, Jia Chen, Jia Yin. Book 6 Ding, 6 Jia, Xing Xing, Deities and Ghosts, disband. Su Zimo shouted softly. The next moment, the 12 strange characters rapidly transformed. In the blink of an eye, they transformed into 12 figures with terrifying auras. The black characters transformed into 6 women in black battle armor. They had graceful figures and held battle swords in their hands. The white characters transformed into 6 men in white battle armor. They had tall and sturdy figures and held battle halberds in their hands. More importantly, the auras emanating from these 6 pairs of men and women had already reached the Grotto Heaven realm. This mystic technique actually originated from the Yin-Yang Talisman Sutra. It was also the strongest dermic formulation in the Tai section of the Taboo Mystic Manual, the Technique Repository. Back then, the 9 Heavens Mystic Fairy Emperor had passed down this dermic Tao in the form of 12 talismans, which were obtained by the Academy's patriarch. It was a pity that the 12 talismans were devoured completely when they encountered Su Zimo's illumination and nether glow divine stones. Su Zimo had also used that exchange to comprehend the crux of this mystic technique. The so-called Six Ding Six Armor God referred to using the power of Yin and Yang to condense the Six Ding Yin God and Six Armor God to fight for oneself. The Six Ding Six Armor God that was condensed was closely related to the cultivator's essence spirit realm. Su Zimo released his eight-teeth divine power. His essence spirit realm had already reached the greater mastery of the Grotto Heaven realm. In other words, the Six Ding Six Armor God that he had just condensed was comparable to a peerless king in terms of physical strength. If the Moon Witch King had the protection of a perfected Grotto Heaven, the Six Ding Six Armor God at the greater mastery of the Grotto Heaven realm might not be a threat to him. However, his greater Grotto Heaven was temporarily trapped by the Yulan Immortal King. This created the best opportunity for the Six Ding Six Armor God to unleash their battle prowess to the extreme. The Six Ding Six Armor God quickly stepped forward and surrounded the Moon Witch King. The Moon Witch King's gaze flickered as he looked at the 12 figures with terrifying auras and murderous auras around him. "Who is the naive one?" Su Zimo asked indifferently. Then, without waiting for the Moon Witch King to reply, he pointed into the distance and said, "Kill." Chapter 2975. In reality, the Luding Liujia God that Su Zimo formed was not a Grotto Heaven realm culmination. This was because the Luding Liujia God had no primordial spirit or bloodline. It only had a body formed by the power of Yin and Yang. Its physical strength was comparable to that of a peerless king. The Moon Witch King's Grotto Heaven perfection was indeed restrained. However, if his physical body and bloodline were powerful, he could also suppress the Luding Liujia God. After all, there was still a realm between them. However, the Moon Witch King was from the Witch tribe. The Witch tribe's combat power was not ranked low among the 10,000 races. In terms of physical body and bloodline, they were ranked low, about the same as ordinary humans. The reason why the Witch tribe could stand at the forefront of the 10,000 races was because of their many strange witchcraft and evil curses. This was also the Moon Witch King's specialty. However, these witchcraft and curses had no effect on the Luding Liujia God. The Luding Liujia God did not have primordial spirit bloodline. No witchcraft or curses could affect them. This invisible restraint smoothed out the difference between the realms between the two parties. The Moon Witch King released many witchcraft curses consecutively. They landed on the Luding Liujia God but did not cause any ripples. They did not affect the movements of the 12 gods at all. This was not the only strange thing about the Luding Liujia God. Although the Luding Liujia God did not have primordial spirits, these 12 gods seemed to have some remnant memories. They could fight on their own without Su Zimo controlling them. Moreover, the Liujia God and the Luding Yin God cooperated with each other very well. It was as if they had fought side by side for countless years. Everything was connected and engraved into their souls. The Liujia God held a battle spear. His attacks were ferocious and powerful. His battle techniques were as heavy as a mountain. The Luding Yin God held a battle sword. His attacks were soft and agile. His sword moves were all-pervasive and endless like flowing water. The Liujia God's every move was compatible with the power of the sun. The Luding Yin God's sword moves were compatible with the power of the moon. The 12 gods surrounded the Moon Witch King. The Liujia God was at the forefront. The white battle armor on his body emitted a dazzling light like a scorching sun. The Luding Yin God's sword light was as bright as the moon. The attacks of the 12 deities were a combination of hardness and gentleness. The sun and the moon followed suit, and the combination of Yin and Yang erupted with the most terrifying melee attacks. Su Zimo's eyelids twitched when he saw this. With his close combat strength, if he were to be surrounded by the 6 Ding and 6 Jia gods, he would probably have to use his 4 heads and 8 arms to fight them. The Moon Witch King wanted to say something, but he did not have the chance to do so. In just a few breaths, the Luding Liujia Shen had already broken through his defenses. The battle spears pierced through his chest and abdomen, leaving behind several huge bloody holes. The sharp swords left deep wounds on his body, so deep that his bones could be seen. The Moon Witch King coughed up large mouthfuls of blood, his expression horrified. He was surrounded by the Luding Liujia Shen and didn't even have a chance to escape. The attacks of the Luding Liujia Shen were endless and impenetrable. Puff, puff, puff. The battle spear stabbed forward and the battle sword slashed down. Bloody light continued to surge. This great peak stage immortal king of the witch race was besieged to death by Su Zimo's secret technique, the Luding Liujia Shen. By the time the Luding Liujia Shen retreated, the Moon Witch King had already lost his human form. He was cut into 8 pieces by the battle sword and stabbed beyond recognition by the battle spear. With the Moon Witch King dead, his perfected Grotto Heaven could not hold on either. Immortal King Yulan's Grotto Heaven instantly gained the upper hand and devoured the Moon Witch King's Grotto Heaven. Immortal King Yulan glanced at the minced meat on the ground and couldn't help but shake her head, speechless. The Moon Witch King had died too tragically. Before he could unleash his battle strength, he was swarmed by a group of puppet-like men and women, chopped to death with their blades and axes. Immortal King Yulan thought to herself, if she did not have the protection of her Grotto Heaven, it would be difficult for her to escape unscathed from this group of men and women. Immortal King Yulan took a deep look at Su Zimo. This battle had once again changed her understanding of this peak master Su. Originally, her evaluation of Su Zimo was already extremely high. After all, Su Zimo's battle achievements in the evil demon battlefield were too dazzling. But now, she realized that this peak master Su's performance in the evil demon battlefield was only the tip of the iceberg. In a great battle, 4 ordinary immortal kings of the Kuan race and 2 peak stage immortal kings had all died in his hands. Although she had played a crucial role in this, she was still extremely shocked by this peak master Su's endless terrifying methods and his decisive nature. How bold and daring did he have to be to plot against peak stage immortal spirits to kill peak stage immortal kings? What was even more terrifying was that he had actually succeeded. The 6 immortal kings, including the Earth Kuan King and the Moon Witch King, had all died. All her previous worries had vanished into thin air. Of course, this matter was not over yet. After Su Zimo killed the Moon Witch King, he turned around and prepared to deal with the black-armored man. But when he turned around, he let out a soft exclamation of surprise. It seemed like there was no need for him to do anything. After the Moon Witch King died, the Sorcerer Tribe's runes on the chains on Xiaoyao's body also dissipated. Without these Sorcerer Tribe's runes, these chains would not be able to restrain Xiaoyao. Xiaoyao immediately broke free from the chains on his body. The qi and blood in his body surged, and even the hook piercing his shoulder blade was quickly squeezed out. The situation was changing. When the black-armored man saw the Moon Witch King die, he realized that something was wrong and wanted to escape. At the same time, Xiaoyao broke free from the chains. He was horrified to discover that his body seemed to be bound by an invisible force. He could not control it, let alone escape. At this moment, a huge Kuan appeared behind Xiaoyao. It was also covered with light spots that connected to form many tracks. This Kuan looked similar to the one behind the black-armored man, but its aura was much more ancient, and its body was filled with the vicissitudes of time. Then, a pair of wings grew out of this Kuan's body, and it vaguely transformed into the form of a rock. The 2 forms of the Kuan and rock appeared behind Xiaoyao at the same time. The 2 forms existed at the same time, and the light spots on them were denser. The tracks formed by the light spots intersected with each other. They were densely packed and looked extremely complicated. It was much more mysterious than the painting of the north behind the black-armored man. With the help of the strange image behind him, Xiaoyao's aura gradually changed, and it even revealed a hint of a heart-palpitating aura. This aura even caused the Qinglian bloodline in Su Zimo's body to ripple. The painting of the north was a secret technique of the Kuan race that was not passed down. Only the Kuan race could cultivate it. By cultivating the painting of the north, the Kuan race could possess a powerful devouring power. The black-armored man was using the painting of the north to forcefully devour the yin and yang energy in Xiaoyao's body and steal his rock bloodline. Now, when Xiaoyao broke free from the chains and the rock image appeared behind him, the situation suddenly changed. A terrifying devouring power burst out from Carefree's body. Before the black-armored man could react, Xiaoyao had devoured the black-armored man's bloodline, true yuan, and even his Dao fruit in the blink of an eye. End of chapter. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.